Welcome back to another game of Mage Knight, this time with more content from the Apocalypse Dragon expansion. I've looked through the scenario book and it seems that in the beginning there are a lot of tutorial scenarios that familiarize yourself with the elements of the expansion, but they are mostly up to 3 rounds or something like this and really look like tutorials, so I'm not going to play them. The first real scenario, so to speak, is against the Horsemen. It's 2 days, 2 nights, so a shorter one, but it is not using the Bliss rules, and I think it becomes clear quite quickly why this is the case. But before we go into details of the scenario, there is another one, which is against the dragon, so the new Apocalypse Dragon, which is also 2 days and 2 nights. And then there is the main scenario. So the overall setup seems similar to Shades of Tesla, where there's 2 scenarios with 2 days, 2 nights, but they are using Blitz rules. And then the main scenario, Life and Death. And here it's the same, where then in the 3 days, 3 nights scenario, we fight the Horseman and the Dragon at once. And I believe then there are 1 or 2 more scenarios in the scenario book. And of course, there's the campaign mode, which we are not trying out now. So I find this scenario quite interesting against the Horseman. So we'll start with this. We will not play with an active dummy or proxy player, and we are not using quests, both because they are not mentioned in the scenario. I believe you could mix them in, but let's start with the scenario or get experience with the scenario before adding some extra stuff. And we have seen these 2 in the last game I uploaded, so let's stick with a simpler version. My hope is also that this will be then a somewhat shorter video, but we'll see if this actually pans out or not. So in this scenario against the Horsemen, you are fighting literally against the 4 Horsemen, which are these 4 tokens here. It's a pre-set up map, quite interesting, with the portal being in the center in the form of a magical glade, which actually also counts as a glade. So it has the portal rules that the Mage Knights do not start on that space, but only at the beginning of their turn they will appear there. And if you do not leave the space, you will vanish again. And multiple Mage Knights can be in the same space. But it's also a glade unless a Horseman reaches the portal. So the idea here is that these 4 Horsemen are approaching the portal in these 4 rounds. So every round they will move 2 spaces, and all of them start exactly 6 spaces away from the portal. So after the 3rd round they will enter the portal. So in the 4th and final round they will no longer be in the map. They will try to close the portal to the Council of the Void, where you are coming from, and you have a last chance to then enter the portal and fight against all the Horsemen at the same time to try and stop them. Which makes the scenario interesting is that, again, it's a preset layout. You have countryside tiles in the middle, and then you have all 4 cities here, which I believe do not have any defenders or something, they're just neutral. It doesn't say anything in the scenario, but it doesn't make sense for me that you have to conquer them. I think they're just there, you don't have any shields on them, but you can use them to recruit units and use their other abilities. So in this sense, they are lucrative to go for, but they don't give you any fame or anything like this. We will roll out the colors, so the tiles we will just reveal because they're mixed up already. I have no idea which tile is where, but the city color I will again make random like in a regular scenario. I like random city colors to detach the color of the city and the special abilities of the city from the tile. As for the other 4 core tiles where the Horsemen are, I will use the 2 new tiles again. I just fixed that so you have them in this video as well and I get some experience with them. But we will have to roll out where they are because it's quite obvious where they are currently. So once this tile is revealed, I have to roll between all the unrevealed tiles. But we don't need to stack because again the other 2 tiles are already random, so we don't need to take any precaution there. As for the countryside tiles, you're using 11 of them. The tile 1 being in the middle because it has a glade in the middle and it's always preset like this. I also did not use random tile orientation for this, for the better part, because I do think it doesn't make any difference whatsoever. But for the other tiles, I will use random tile orientation to make the map really random. So whenever we reveal one of those, I will also roll between those that are actually laid out already, because I do not want to know where the 3 new tiles actually are. So this makes this map really special, because the cities are only 6 spaces away, so you can really just go there in the beginning if you like to. And I believe that the unit offer will change the moment you reveal a core tile. So if we can do that in the first round, which is trivial almost, I would say, then you would have access to elite units from the 2nd round already. But you might actually need them. That's the interesting part here of this scenario. And I like the idea that the map is not in a linear shape where you always progress away from the portal. Here you have a reason to like circle around the map, maybe even backtrack. And just to point that out, if we reveal the core tiles in the first day, we will have elite units in the offer, but since this is not a Bliss scenario, we will have only 3 dice in the source and only 3 units, which also means that my starting source here I have to reroll because it's 4 dice, so I already catch the first mistake. And funnily enough, the starting source comes up as it was, but just without a red die. Yeah, but I was just about to say that it is not Bliss ruled, so 3 dice in the source, 3 units, so that's not much. And once we reveal the core tiles, 2 of the units will be elite ones, which in general sounds good, but they are much harder to hire. So you might have to go to a city, you might need much more influence. So I'm not sure this is good to rush for this, but this scenario gives you the opportunity to really go for elite units early. But it does not hand out extra reputation or fame, so it's like regular difficulty without Bliss rules, and you have to defeat 4 horsemen. They seem to be almost stationary, so it's not a scenario where they roam the land and destroy everything. They just go for the portal. They actually ignore anything and everything. You can even move through them. They can move through you. They just don't care. If you want to attack them, you can do that, of course. But otherwise, they are no threat or something like this. And they will just move in every round. Within the round, they won't move at all. But I think it's interesting because you can either just level and then fight them all in the center, or take out 1 or 2 or even 3 before they even reach the portal, if you can do that. And one major point, of course, is, as you can see, nothing is revealed, so you really have to pay the movement here, which I think means that movement cards are much more interesting in this scenario as well. Because you really have to go to the city, hire, go back, and at least that's what I'm anticipating. I don't think we can reveal most of the map, and that just sounds quite fascinating, to be honest. Let's see how this actually turns out. What is a bit strange is that the map is the same, no matter if you play solo, 2-player, 3-player, 4 players. It's just that in solo the horsemen are level 2, that's what the scenario says. So the horsemen can get up to level 6, at which point most of them have 11 armor. There are horsemen of all variety, of course, one with physical armor, one with cold fire armor, and then with cold and fire. And as for the attacks, as you would expect, one is fire and brutal, one is ice and paralyze, one is physical and poison, and one is physical and swift. I will not play with level 2 because I do think it's just the standard setting, and usually if you just go for the standard setting as an experienced player, this will be far too easy. So I'm thinking about level 3 or 4 because there is variant in the rulebook that I like so much that I probably just play that right away, and that's that you can actually give these tokens a horse so that they're actually riding on a horse, these horsemen. And as a horse, in quotes, we just use dungeon enemies. So they could be riding on a manticore or on a minotaur or whatever, even on a medusa, which might sound a bit strange, but I do like the general idea because it does mean there's a lot more variety. You have to define 2 tokens instead of 1. And if you kill the horseman and not the horse will just vanish. If you kill the horse, of course, you will get the fame. So I like that so much that I will do that. But then I'm already thinking about if I should increase the level at all or even that much, because adding a brown enemy will ramp up the difficulty quite drastically if I look at the horseman, because level 2 or 3 is almost a brown token. If you go up to level 4, it's really another category of token if you then add another brown. So what I'm saying is that the brown token almost doubles the fighting power and armor, I think. So it's already doubling the difficulty, and if you then also ramp up the level, it will be much more difficult. So let's go with level 3 and a horse. I think that's a good compromise. Let's see what happens then. One thing to definitely note with this scenario is that the map is just huge, so I already had to overlap it here to make it work at all. And there's very little space here for a large army or a large planning area. The rows we can remove, of course, if need be, but it's really big on the table as a scenario, so that might be a downside because it does not help Mage Knight's table presence at all. As for the heroes, I'm using Coral as my dummy because I played her last time and I do want to play different heroes as well. But I do want to have her in and see some of her skills, so you also see at least some of them. And I'm playing Norowas as my main hero. I rolled between Wolfhawk and Norowas. Wolfhawk was the dummy last game and I would be interested in playing her, but I do think I played Norowas a lot less, and in the end, with a scenario where you have access to elite units quite early, Norowas might be really cool. Let's see. Finally, since this is a glade, the rules specifically say that it functions as a glade even in the first turn, so we do start the game with a gold token. I think that really shows you that this is not meant to be Bliss, where you have less time but get help with reputation, fame, more units, more mana and so on. But you really have to do with the regular rules, but the game kickstarts you with a glade right in the center. So we will have a gold token to play with in the first turn even. As for the setup, this scenario will always start the same with the same tile, so you always have orcs right adjacent to your space, which is quite interesting. You don't even have to move to potentially level, and we are lucky that it's catapult, so we can level, although they are physical resistant. But a rage with, well, we don't have a red dry anymore, but we do have the gold token, so rage will already kill them. But you do have to deal with the attack. But then again, you are sitting on a glade, so you also heal a wound if you take it. So that's really nice, and it's another puzzle piece that shows you that the game is kickstarting you in this way, so you actually have a chance in 4 rounds to defeat all this. And as a village, so you always have a chance to hire. Hiring means thugs, shock troops or peasants. Shock troops you can't hire in the village, of course. Peasants, solid, but the most basic unit imaginable. And thugs is a double-edged sword, so I'm a bit torn. Usually I don't like them too much, but they do have a solid armor. They can persuade themselves to block, so easy to heal. That might actually be a great plus. Map-wise, that's already it, so it's a good question how to even start such a scenario, but I would guess just level and then go from there. The advanced action offer has Intimidate, which I do like a lot because it's a lot of attack or influence. Both are really welcome in such a scenario, and the influence especially can mean that we can hire core units quite early. Frostbitch is a movement skill that can make you cross lakes, and I do like that a lot too. It will also make your movement over swamps much more efficient. And I do like a good movement skill, and especially in this scenario, I think movement skills are quite good. Finally, Shield Bash, which can reduce the armor of units if they are not ice resistant, because it's a blue card, it's not white or green. And it could already reduce the armor of the physical resistant and fortified catapults by 1, but yeah, we don't have it yet, and I think I probably would value Intimidate or Frostbitch over Shield Bash, for the moment at least. As for the spells, we have Charm and Possess. That's always nice to have. By playing with horsemen that actually have a horse, I think Possess becomes much more interesting, of course. If you fight them as a single token, then there's not much to gain. Expose, Mass Expose, always welcome. Since they are not fortified, of course, the horsemen, range tag will just work, so you can ignore the resistance of them. That would be a good pickup, I think. And Restoration, I think compared to the other two, I'd rather go for Expose or Charm, but it is a good healing card. As for the opening hand, we have Crystallize, which is nice sitting on a glade. We do have a Rage, that's good, so we can actually defeat the catapult. The Stamina is also okay, because it can reduce the attack, and of course we need movement to actually get going, explore stuff. So actually Stamina is really good in this scenario. And then we have 2 Swiftness, and that's the part that I don't like at all. They don't help with the catapult, and playing them for movement just doesn't feel that good. And as I see it, we will probably use the gold token for Rage, so we can't actually use Crystallize, at least not in the first turn. Which does make me lean a bit towards Rethink, and seeing if I can find more influence cards to hire in the village or movement cards to actually explore. And maybe have the Swiftness later than when I can actually use it with Concentration. But it's pretty much it for the setup. Usually it takes much more time because the map already shows you some options. Having 2 tiles revealed is huge, of course, but there's not much to discuss here actually, because you do have to reveal these tiles on your own. Which does mean we can think about how to kill the catapults, and then about the level up and what to actually pick. If you only want to get 1 wound, we would need to reduce the attack of the catapult by 5. And I currently do not really want to play the stamina for just the attack reduction, because we do need to move away from the glade. But I do like sitting there killing the catapults, because I can heal a wound and get another gold token, so we can really milk this glade in the beginning of the game to get all the mana we want. But 7 attack is nothing to joke about, because with 2 armor, that's 4 wounds, so we do need to reduce this, and we should really reduce this a lot, which could mean powering movement card after all, which would be possible with Mana Steal if we steal the blue, power the Stamina and the Rage, but the Crystallize again would just clog up our hand, at least in the first turn, and then we would have 2 Swiftness still. So maybe Mana Steal is an option, but it would mean that we are stuck with Crystallize and 2 Swiftness and only draw 2 cards. And if we go for the village first, if we rethink, for example, and get some influence cards, and then pick up the peasants, we would have to backtrack to the glade, which is 5 movement already, which doesn't reveal anything. So it's not clear to me that actually taking out these catapults is the best move, but it does level us, give us a card. So we could, for example, take the Frost Bridge, which then immediately means we have a movement card back. So I guess the 2 main options are taking Mana Steal and using Stamina and Rage. It would still give us 2 wounds unless we drop another card as well, like the Crystallize or one of the Swiftness, or if we rethink. But then again, if we are dropping or thinking about dropping cards, we could as well use the Swiftness for movement as well. So we could produce 4 movement with these 2 cards without mana steal. But the problem really is this odd number of 7, and we have an armor of 2, and all these movements is an even number, so in the end it's always a wound for a point which hurts. Actually, I'm an idiot. I'm just not used to having a gold token from the Glade in the beginning, because we can use the Source Die, of course, so we don't need to mana steal. Mana stealing would even give us yet another mana, which we currently could not even use because there's black and green and we don't have a green card. So I think that settles it. Let's just go with Rethink, swap out these 3 cards, and then see what happens. Oh, unless we are using Mana Steal to crystallize right away. That would play 3 cards. We could then crystallize the green, steal the blue, use the wild for the rage, and then we would be left with 2 swiftness. But I don't think it's worth it. I think I want to swap out the cards, go before the dummy, and then see what happens. Unless we are going even higher in the tactics, for example with planning. I don't like the great start, early bird, right moment. You know that by now. But planning could be interesting, because then we could hold on to crystallize swiftness, and still draw 3 cards and play the first day with a hand limit of 6. And sitting on the Glade means crystallize we can most likely do, because we will have more mana in the second turn as well. So it might not be the worst timing to have crystallized that early, but it might probably mean that we have 1 turn less than the dummy. Yeah, so I think the real decision is between Rethink and Planning. And maybe we just drop one of the swiftness after all, because this gives us 6 move, so it's just 1 wound that's healed at the end of the turn, the rage kills it. We will hold on to these, draw 4 cards. We then probably take the Frost Bridge, because we do need to reveal tiles as fast and as soon as possible to pick the best spots to snowball. I feel like the basic decision here is between having an efficient long first round where we go before the dummy and make the most of our cards, or going for a higher hand limit and use this to optimize the play, but risk having the round cut short because we can play more cards per turn, because we do have more and it might be tempting to do so, and the dummy might go before us. It's a tough decision. I don't know what's better here, but I do think dropping a swiftness has to do, and I do think in the next turn we will probably have a chance to crystallize, so I do like planning here. Let's go with planning. So it's really unusual that you can start the game with a mana, but then again you don't have much to do here, because we could with Mana Steal even play 3 mana in the first turn, but I do think that disqualifies Mana Steal, and so the decision is between Rethink and Planning. And since we do have a first turn with the cards we have, or at least with some of them, I think we just go with Planning and then play the first round with an increased hand limit, which most likely means the dummy is before us, but what can you do? So the dummy goes for Mana Steal. Okay, so that's exactly the only choice that really makes a difference, because if I would have taken Rethink, then he would have gone after us. But as it is, Coral will now go before Norowas, so we reveal cards, blue, green, and finally red. So it's Tempered Steel, the special card of Coral, and she has 1 red crystal, so there's another blue. In our first turn we are picking a fight with the catapults. They have 7 attack, and we use a blue Source Die and a stamina for movement 6, taking 1 wound, but since we are on the Glade and not moving, this is healed at the end of turn. And then we use the gold token from the Glade to power a Rage for attack 4, which is inefficient 2, but it kills the catapults. We do get 4 fame and a reputation, and the token is used, but we will have 1 in the beginning of the next turn. We have played 3 cards, but retained 2. That's the idea, to make planning kick in. Let's see what the die rerolls to. Comes up red. Of course we stamp through the portal first, but we would technically at the end of turn, since we are still on the portal space, remove the figure again, but we end so let's just put him here and leave him here. But we proceed to level up. And the skill choice is between Day Sharpshooting, and they're very nice, and Forward March, which is a movement skill, so that's a, I would say, tough choice already, because I do think having movement every turn in such a scenario might be extremely good to stay mobile. But it does work only with already unwounded units, and up to 3 of course, and we don't have any at all at the moment, so currently this would be 0 movement. And once we have used the units, of course, it will no longer work for the round, which makes it a bit unreliable. And this is just firepower, 1 at night, 2 at day, and it's ranged. I think I like that too much. So let's go with Day Sharpshooting. And since the skill does not help with movement now, and we do need movement, I will take the Frost Bridge. The advanced action offer refreshes with Peaceful Moment. Very interesting. Good influence skill, 3 and 6. And it can allow you, played as an action instead of an interaction, to ready units and heal, which is an awesome skill for Norowas. Let's see what Coral adds to the offer. and it is Tales of Adventure, so an influence skill. So it's 2, or if you have shields here, you can remove 1 per turn to make it 4 in this turn, and you gain shields by conquering adventure sites, so you can tell the tale of how you did that. That might also be interesting, to be honest. But that's the first turn then. We redraw up to 6 now because of planning. There's the Frost Bridge, a Determination, which does not help explore, Noble Manners, that does help with recruiting, and a Concentration, so we finally have the combo in hand, but no targets yet. That brings us to the second turn. Let's see what the dummy does. Green, so more cards without crystal. White, that's good. And another green, so short turn, that's welcome. So we can play our second turn. So the problem is we have neither white nor blue. So if we want to power a movement card to also reveal and Noble Manners to hire, we only have this token for both of these actions and we would not be able to crystallize again. Which makes me think that Concentration might be even better here. For example, Concentration Frost Bridge, because this could give us movement 6 to reveal 2 tiles, and I think that's more than worth it, even though we lose the Concentration Swiftness then, but we do really need the intel here, what we have to expect, what the land gives us as sites, because without this all the planning is useless, which would mean we could use the green die for this instead of the blue and could power Noble Manners with this. But the unfortunate thing is that we are still quite mana hungry and cannot use Crystallized then. Determination, as said, is not really helpful, but it might change once we reveal stuff. The question is also what to hire. We could pick up the Peasants just like that, get a Fame and a Reputation, which would already bring us to +1, really nice. Or pick up the Thugs, which would mean 1 more card sideways, which could be the Crystallized, for example, and just give up on that. But I feel like the Peasants are not actually that bad. It's more influence and even movement. And I'm not sure I like the reputation losses the Thugs give me if I'm playing Norowas. So maybe it's just Peasants for the day and then explore the core tiles and try to pick up more units in the first night. So probably it's Concentration Frost Bridge, go to the village, explore the 2 tiles, that's 6 movement, then Powered Noble Manners, getting Fame and Reputation, pick up the Peasants and then see where we go from there. We draw 3 cards, we do have Crystallized, Swiftness, Determination and 3 other cards to tackle whatever comes up, and then from there decide where to go. I think that's probably a good plan. So let's execute this and finally see some of the terrain that's coming up. With the source showing neither white nor blue, it's not a good place to power both the Frost Bridge and the Noble Manners. So I decided to go with Concentration, which needs green mana instead, to produce 6 movement points, which allows Norowas to move to the village with the goal to hire. But we can also reveal 2 tiles, and I think that's quite important to progress. And after that we will power Noble Manners with the mana from the Glade to pick up the Peasants. But first we have to decide what these 2 tiles are of these 10. And I think at that point with so many tiles it's easier to just go with a d10 and just roll it out. And we will go line by line, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on up to 10. And we will explore here first. Die comes up as a 6. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's this tile here. So it's actually one of the new ones. So let's swap them and we roll for the rose. Comes up golden, so it's not rotated at all. And it's the tile with a deep mine, oasis, keep and a Ziggurat. And since it's not rotated, it's placed like this. Which does mean the Ziggurat and the oasis are facing us, but it's desert and it's still day. The mine could be interesting, but hard to reach. The keep is actually in plains, that's good. And it might give us a chance to attack this rider here at night when he's coming down here with the animal increase. But it's not a good tile to start, I think, currently. So let's roll for this, and now 10 is unavailable. And of course it comes up as 10, so we have to roll again, which is an 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's this tile here, which is a monastery, another glade, an orc, and a mine. Let's roll for orientation. Comes up green, so it's rotated twice. So from this orientation 1 and 2. So very nice, because the blue mine is now facing us and we can just kill them with day sharpshooting and the swiftness. That's enough. In essence, at day this is like a concentration, so we can come up to 5, which could be a play to go to the monastery, but we would have to somehow bypass this. So I do think maybe getting to the mine and getting a crystal and getting 2 more fame and another reputation is probably a nice thing. And in the monastery we can also learn Spellforge, which gives us a crystal of the color of a spell on the offer, or 2 different spells of the offer if powered, so a nice card to obtain crystals. But that's the revealing of tiles. So we proceed to hiring with the mana from the glade. Since we do not have an influence bonus yet, that's influence 4, and unless we are playing another card sideways, which we do not want to do. We do not want to shorten the round further to hide the thugs, but the thugs usually come with reputation penalty later, so we are picking up the peasants. And since it was powered, we gain a fame and a reputation, so we are already at +1. So I like the trajectory here that we are going into the positive quite early with Norowas here. But it's 3 cards we played. Now we left the glade, so we will not have any more tokens. This is rerolled, the rest we do not want to touch currently. Die comes up white, so it stays fresh, and I in particular like it because we do have a swiftness here, which does mean we can hopefully next turn go to the mine and then defeat these orcs as well. But we still are struggling with getting crystallized going. But let's see. We draw 3 cards because we still have planning. There's a march, it's very welcome to actually reach the mine because it's movement 3, a threaten, and a stamina. So more movement. Overall, I think that's quite welcome. But that's the second turn then, and the dummy plays a third. Let's move the rose out of the way for time being. The dummy plays a blue, a white, so it's quick-witted, the swiftness version of coral, and another green, so that's lucky, another short turn. Which brings us to our third turn. And I do think, as already said when revealing, Desert at Night with the Ziggurat is probably not a good option. If we would have Concentrate Swiftness with Day Sharpshooting, so 7 range attack, that might be really tempting. But I think it's better for the next night then, because we do not have concentration. So we only, in quotes, have Day Sharpshooting with Swiftness, so that's 5. And we learned last time that these tokens can be increased in armor, so 7 I think I feel quite comfortable with. You would have to be quite unlucky to pull one of the plus armor tokens, and even if it's +1, you still have a good chance to still kill the enemy token at range. Another option could be here, but this is out of position. How do we even get there? We could of course also walk here and then explore even more, but I don't see any reason not to go here and kill those to get even more reputation. We would need 3 movement for this, or 5 if you also want to reveal this tile. Maybe let's move the rose here after all, because it's currently more likely that we explore here. Because we do get a crystal then at the end of turn, and I do like that a lot, because we have none whatsoever. What I do not really like, I just realized that the monastery is now taunting me to burn it down, which with Norowas might not be a good idea. With the whole strategy of going for core tiles early, picking up elite units, it's actually a place where we can hire them, so I do not think it's worth just to try and snowball with an early artifact. So I think I'd rather explore a bit more and maybe go back to the Ziggurat and pick up a artifact there. Although at night it's no longer +2, but what can you do? We need 3 more fame to be able to pick up a second unit, and the offer is kind of dry unless we are getting another keep. And this one is quite far out of position. So currently, if we want to kill these orcs, they are not the best token obviously because it's just 2 fame, but it's tempting since it's just a swiftness with the sharpshooting, so we should use the skill, and it alleviates us from dealing with these 2 attacks, which are usually 2 different cards because you can't group attacks of course and block them at the same time. The question is what we do with threaten. Do we try and aim for an advanced action, but it would also cost reputation? I'm tempted to just toss this and probably hold on to the stamina because it's blue and we're getting blue crystal. So playing the march with the threaten sideways for 3 movement, and then the swiftness with the white source die and the day sharpshooting to kill them. It would again mean that we have no use for these cards yet, but we can then see what the die rerolls to and then use the stamina to progress. Or we play that right away. At that point we should think about how many turns we will have. So the dummy played quite slow, so he has 6 cards, but he's playing at least 3 and then at least 3, so if he's playing more, well, it doesn't matter at all. If he plays 3, 4 or 5, he will exhaust his deck in the next turn. So we have 4 turns, including this one. So let's look at our deck, and we have 5 more cards coming up. So that's not much, which makes me think that we should not play the stamina now to reveal. Let's take it a little bit slower and see what happens. If we sit another turn on the mine, it's not the worst outcome, it's another crystal. So I think that's a good plan. We do have to play cards sideways, otherwise we can't reach that much. So let's just do that. So we progress with March, but we do have to come up with movement 3 to get to these hills, to the mine. So we play Threaten sideways and Norowas moves to the mine. And then we attack these rampaging enemies here with a white source die for swiftness, range attack 3, and day sharpshooting is actually range attack 5. More than enough to kill them. They are just 2 fame, so we do not level unfortunately. but we also get another reputation, so we are really going into the positive here. And we should not be tempted by this monastery to undo all the progress we made. But I think we have to slow down a bit. We played 3 cards again, and we have planning, and we will have 3 more turns and only 5 cards in the deck, so we will draw 3 of the 5 already. But I think that's worthwhile here. We do get a blue crystal at the end of turn. That was the idea here. We have only blue cards, so we can power everything. And let's see what the die rerolls to. And it stays white, so we are drawing 3 cards, 3 of the 5. And it's a march, so movement. Mana draw, that might be really good to finally get some of these cards like Crystallized Blade, and an improvisation. But it's the 3rd turn. We did not play the stamina right away because we have to slow down and maybe we can power it after all. So the dummy plays his 4th turn, and there is red. Doesn't matter at that point, as said. Blue and another red, so it's 1 more card, which is also red. But he will exhaust his deck next turn and then announce the end of round, which means now we have 3 turns left. So let's play our 4th. And there's an argument to be had to just sit here, because we will get a crystal. We can also play Crystallize for another crystal and then just redraw 1 card and see where we go from there. Or is there any sense in rushing away? We could play 1 more card just to explore, but boosting that card doesn't even do anything unless we are moving away. And I currently don't see why we would do that. We are +1 now, so the improvisation in the monastery would give us 6, which is Spellforge. So we could learn that there. And then explore a core tile with a city on it, so we also know what the city is. That might be the better direction, but there still is the argument to reveal this, just to know what the countryside looks like. We should also know what the last 2 cards are. That's quite important for planning. And we do need to realize that we do have a unit with the peasants. So that's also to influence if we like, or movement. So the white cards we have all seen. The blue cards we have obviously all seen, even a new one. There's another rage coming up, which is not helpful unless we are getting into another fight. And there is the tranquility coming up. So we could heal and fight, but no more movement. I seriously have to consider, unfortunately, to burn down the monastery, because it would be a way to make use of the fighting cards, but I am afraid that it might not be the best idea. It would still only be 0, but I do think being a positive with Norowas with this strategy might pay off. We did not pick up any influence cards yet, and the alternative to burning it down is really to go there, reveal even more tiles and learn Spellforge, so it's another advanced action that if you also use it is another crystal. That should also count for something. The problem really is that the movement cards should be both powered, because otherwise we are just wasting 2 movement points. And if we want to sit here, we only need 2 movement points. So do we play a march or stamina just to reveal? Or do we leave that untouched and just go here later to reveal these 2? That's also 8 movement points if you power them both. The peasants are also there, of course. But if I want Spellforge, I would have to use improvisation anyway, otherwise I'm just lacking too much influence, so I don't need the peasants for that. That would be an argument that peasants with march and stamina powered 1 of the 2 is actually enough to reveal these 2 tiles and go to the monastery. Or we just use the peasants now because they give only 2 movement anyway. I think I like that idea because it leaves the other 2 movement cards open. And then we can crystallize a source die and we essentially just sit here for a turn. I'm also thinking about the mana draw, but I don't see currently what color we would produce by repaying the black die that suits us. If we do red, we would need to play improvisation or later rage and just crystallize the other red token. And it's nothing I would play this turn. I probably should just crystallize the white and then try to use mana draw to use both source die unless it depletes. That leaves the red, that's the idea here. And we do have enough blue crystals to power the stamina if we do not reroll into blue or gold. Even if we reroll in white, we could still produce 2 blue tokens, but then again, it's just a stamina and a card like Determination that we don't need if we go for the Spellforge, unless turning a die blue would mean we would have access to blue for the last turn for Spellforge then. I think that's a quite good idea. But the idea still would be to try and power both movement cards. So Crystallize is something that we would like to play after all, if we don't need a source die. So use the peasants to scout and then crystallize a source die and try to use most likely improvisation with determination or any other card we want to toss with the mana draw to also move. But you can see here that the colors just don't add up. It's red, green and blue, so a mana draw with turning a die to a color will not work. And Tranquility and Rage do not play any role here, unfortunately. I think the main decision is if we want to burn down a monastery, because if we want to, we can also try that now. The peasants won't help anyway, but we only have the improvisation and determination currently. We could use the white die for mana draw, power the stamina to get to the monastery, and then we have the mana for the determination already, but we would not have another red. I just don't think it's a good idea. I think I'd rather should learn Spellforge, leave the monastery be for the time being, see what action we can learn next round and take it from there. We can still burn it down, but maybe even higher before that. So I do think peasants and then crystallizing the white die is the way to go. Draw one card, have 2 more turns, one to go there and pick up Spellforge and another to reveal the core tile. I think I will try that. Depends, of course, on what we reveal here. Maybe there's something even better to go here and reveal this tile. Yeah, but we finally get rid of this. And the peasants would not be useful for influence here, not for burning it down. So currently we don't need them, and I'd rather have the ability to power both of those. Depends on the reroll, of course. Yeah, let's reveal that tile with the peasants. So lots of options again. It also depends on the colors in the source. The mana draw does not really fit currently because there's so many different colors of cards. But we do try and just reveal this now with the peasants, which do not help here anyway because we have enough influence and burning it down there would not help anyway. So I think we just produce 2 movement to give us the option to power these movement cards to get even more movement. And just use the fact that we are sitting on a mine to crystallize a source die after all and then see what it rerolls to and just draw 1 card. So these 2 movement reveals this, but of course we have to roll between 8 different map tiles. So that's what a D8 is for. Let's see what tile we get. Comes up as 5, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's the other new tile, interesting. Actually, one of the other new tiles, there's even one more. Let's roll for the rose. Comes up blue, so it's just rotated 1 click. That's the regular orientation, and it's rotated like this, which is a tile with the other deep mine, an oasis, also orcs, but also a mage tower. And now stuff gets interesting because this means we have finally access to spells, which is in hillside, so the 3 movement. And if we move here or even here, I think we still move here and do the original plan, but we will see the defenders. So if we want to take it at night, we are not just stumbling into some unknown defenders. But that's the peasants and the movement and the reveal. And we use the crystallize still to get a white crystal because this doesn't really change anything. We are not going into wasteland and we are not moving away from the mine for the turn. So we are ending the turn and get another blue crystal from the mine. And we have just played the crystallize then, reroll a die. Comes a blue, that's almost perfect. Well, it is perfect actually, because it means that mana draw, marginal improvisation will get us the Spellforge. But we draw 1 card, one of the 2, and it's the Tranquility, which actually is Rejuvenate. I should have known that, but I didn't play Norowas that often, it seems, which is our Tranquility version, but it also allows us to gain mana or ready a unit, and especially readying a unit is a really good use for the card. Usually with Tranquility, with heal or drawing, if you don't need heal and drawing is just replacing the card itself, it's just not that good, it would be almost a blank card. But now that we have used the peasants and draw Rejuvenate, it's almost perfect because we then have another wildcard card, so to speak. I liked it a lot. But it was our 4th turn after Dummy's 4th turn, so he's playing his 5th, and we already know that he's now definitely exhausting his deck, so it's 2 more white cards. So now it's exhausted. Let's get rid of this. And we have 2 turns, our 5th and then the 6th after the end of round is announced. I think it's clear that Rejuvenate currently is best spent on the peasants, unless we are getting fancy and trying to take the tower, which means I think we should go here, look at the tower, and then either go here with 2 movement or here with 3. But it's really unlikely that we can take that. We just have improvisation and determination to do anything. So I don't know what I would expect as a token to actually chance that. I think it's much better to press on to the core tiles, because if we end the first round without revealing core tiles, the whole strategy of early elite units suddenly vanishes. So I do think it's just best to go here, pick up the Spellforge, be in position with the next knight on a monastery to hire, to maybe learn another advanced action, maybe visit the city, go to some advanced sites. So I think we are really well prepared. We don't need to take out a horseman in the first round, I think. That's far too early, especially with my settings, with level 3 and a horse. I think that's far too good. We need some firepower first, like expose or something like this. So the tower is interesting, but I think it's easy enough to go there next night and maybe attempt this horseman in the first night. Unless we want charm/possess, then we would need to go to the tower now before this actually vanishes. But I do think I'd rather have expose over possess because it's more range attack, and leaning into range attack with scenarios like this is good, obviously. The dummy will get a white crystal nevertheless, which is good, and a blue card, so this works out quite well. But how do we move? I think that's the most important thing, and it seems like we are using blue for this, because we do have a blue source die. That would leave the mana draw to pull the red to power the improvisation. And if we are going for the monastery, we most likely will toss this. Unless we want to divert to the tower as said, then any other card sideways would do. Even the rejuvenate, but it might be good to then get the peasants back. But I don't think we need to decide it now, because this can also heal 2 wounds if we want to take the tower and just take the damage. So I do think starting with the stamina, with the source die, and revealing the defenders is probably the best idea here. And then we can see later what we do with this. I think we should gather this much information at least. So let's do that. We do have several options on how to proceed, but I think all of them lead us here to either then take the tower or go to the monastery and learn Spellforge as planned. So we do start with a stamina and a blue source die for 4 movement points. Use 2 to go here and then see what the defenders of the tower are. And the defenders are fire mages. So 5 armor with fire resistance and an attack of 6 fire damage. The next level up, of course, will give us our 3rd armor point. That would be quite important to get 2 wounds instead of 3. Interestingly enough, the improvisation will be enough damage to just kill them, even without being powered, because we do have the day sharpshooting. We will never block an attack of 6, which is fire. We are not Tovak, that just has an absurd amount of elemental block, especially ice block, which does mean we can put 1 wound on the peasants, 2 on us. I think that's fair. Attack, as said, we really don't need, because we do have 2, so we need 3. It's far too perfect to use the improvisation. Well, we don't need to, because we could just use... Well, improvisation is never efficient, but then again, getting 3 more attack points usually means at least 2 cards or 1 card and a mana, so 2 cards is as good as anything else. And we can't use this for anything else, it's just wasted if we don't use it for damage. So, as you can see, I'm already tempted to take the tower. We are lacking 1 movement point, and we should keep in mind that we want to reveal a core tile, which does mean if we go to the tower, we just need 4 movement to reveal this. So if we hold on to 1 card, which we then would need to power, of course, then it's already taken care of. But what do we do with the wounds? We would need green mana here, and it would be nice to have green mana here, which actually does mean that we could hold on to the wounds, because we will draw this anyway, unless we are playing really few cards, so there's no haste in healing them, so we could hold on to all these cards here. To then next turn use mana draw to produce 2 green, but it would need a crystal here, but currently we don't have a green at all, and it sounds efficient to do that, and we will have a reroll from this. If it's white, that would be perfect. If it's green, there might be some different play to just power this, for example. And we also have the spell, of course. We could pick up Restoration to just heal the 3 wounds we get, but I don't think I want to do that. Charm could be interesting, because we can use it right away, but I don't think we get to 7 influence and pick up another spell. Expose is far too tempting, because it's just another range attack too. We do need a lot of white mana, especially with the swiftnesses in the starting deck that just need white mana to produce the 3 range attack if you plan using them. With concentration it becomes green, of course, but every other range attack that also uses white means you need a lot of white mana. And if we are not picking up Spellforge, it means that we are not getting that many crystals from this either. Or is there a world where we take the tower and then next turn go to the monastery and learn that using Charm? We will still be at +1, so Charm is already 5. There's a Rage coming up that we don't need. But how do we explore the core tile? We would have 4 movement to reach it. If we are just not healing the wounds, we could rejuvenate the peasants for 2 movement. But I think it's clear that we are taking this tower. That's far too tempting. We will level again. Also be in a good position to hire next turn. If we place a wound on the peasants, there are only 2 left that bother us. Is it the end of the world if we are not revealing a core tile? That's so funny. The scenario looks like you can sprint to core tiles, and that would be a good strategy. But if you're actually doing something to get your snowball going, you might get distracted before you even reach the outer ring. But is that bad? We would not be able to use the Spellforge, because we only get it with the final turn, which might be a reason to just not go there. If you're picking up Charm now, Expose is gone anyway, I'm just realizing. It's a mana-hungry spell, and we are not going for a big assault or anything where it's worthwhile to remove resistance from everything. Fortifications are not relevant with Horsemen, and I don't think they are arcane immune. If they are, it would be pointless anyway, unless we are targeting the horses. So maybe Possess is even just better. They have to be arcane immune. Or maybe not, maybe they are just tough tokens that can level and are used in a special way, but they are not like bosses, so Maybe you can just possess them and kill their own horse, or vice versa. That would be so funny. Yeah, currently I'm gravitating towards picking up Charm, not Expose, and then just continue here and reveal that core tile and leave the monastery be for the time being. It's good to know that it's there to come back later. I think that's the play here. We are then ending with no wounds in the deck, just one on the peasants. I think we should try that. I just realized that we are lacking a movement point. We didn't talk about that. We have still 2 from the stamina because we entered plains. So we have 2 points left, but the mage tower is in hills. So we need another movement point. It's a card, unfortunately. And we are starved for cards. We want to hold on to these, and improvisation just takes 2 cards. That's the problem with improvisation. It forces you to be inefficient because it essentially means that you play it sideways or the other card sideways to that end. And determination doesn't do the trick here because we cannot power it for attack, which could mean that we just linger here and use the 2 movement points to explore this, draw the rage. But how does this help us with exploring the core tiles? I think it doesn't. Maybe the play is to just let go of mana draw. But if we do not get green, especially not 2, we cannot heal the 2 wounds that we get and explore here. This really all banks on mana draw and having the white crystal because we do not know what this rerolls to. The thing is also that we do get charm, at least we want to take that, and if we want to use that, we would have to do that in the tower, but for what? Which suddenly means going to the monastery might be a play to just use the influence to heal the wounds. And to be sure that we can cast charm, we would have to save the white crystal for that, then mana draw would be not important. And we could rejuvenate the peasants and play March for the movement 4 that we need to go to the monastery. Which would mean that we do this after all, to now reach the tower, defeat it, take 2 wounds in hand, 1 on the peasants, then hope for a green reroll. But if not, we just rejuvenate the peasants, movement 4. The rage sideways with charm is with the bonus, even after the assault. We will have 6. Actually, we don't need... Well, actually, we do need 6 if we want to heal everything. That's even better than rejuvenate, because the monastery has a heal point for 2 influence. So we could heal all the wounds, the one from the peasant and from the hand. I think that's the play here. If we get a green, we can even explore the core tile or a gold. So we might even get lucky and even get to the core tiles after all. Yeah, okay, let's do that. So it's far too tempting to take the tower now, because we do know that we can just kill them. Which does mean we play the mana draw sideways. Unfortunately, it would be really nice to play any other card sideways for this. But we do need to do this to get another movement point. So we have movement 3. So Norowas can attack the tower in hills. Which does mean it's an assault, unfortunately, and we lose a reputation. Then we are facing the fire mages and the 6 fire attack. We really have nothing to prevent this. So we are putting 1 wound on the peasants with armor 3. But 3 remaining damage still means we take 2 wounds as well. But then we can just use the improvisation with determination to come up with an attack of 3. It would even work the other way around, but it's 2 cards anyway. Together with day sharpshooting, it's an attack of 5, and that's enough to kill them. And that's 5 fame. So we are skyrocketing on the fame board, leveling and almost leveling again. So only 3 fame away. We do get our second slot and our armor point, which is important. So these cards are played, and we are holding on to these cards because there's no haste in playing them currently. And we are banking on a reroll to green or gold. Let's see if any of these happen. So the die comes up white, which is not the worst because we are picking up charm as our combat reward now. Charm and possess, because we do think it's even better than expose in this particular scenario. So that's that. The spell offer refreshes with Tremor. Would be nice for city assaults, but I don't think in this scenario that's so good. If the horsemen are really not arcane immune, it will be an armor reduction of 3 on 1 token or 2 on both with the horse. So still not bad, especially since it penetrates resistances. But that's the combat reward. We already leveled up. So since we are still having planning, we can draw these 2 cards. So the charm that we just picked up, and of course the rage that we knew came up. The dummy will announce the end of round. So it's the end of our 5th turn, and the dummy announce the end of round in the 6th, and we play our 6th turn. And the idea, of course, is to use charm, and white, as said, is actually not the worst color. It's actually probably even a better color. I'm not sure why I rooted for green. Probably because we can then use this to even explore a core tile and use the white crystal for this. Actually, we do get a crystal, so we can still do that. That might be worth it. We have to use that first, unfortunately. Oh, actually, it's all out of order. I'm an idiot. I would have to rejuvenate the peasants to get the movement 2 to actually get us there. We could have taken the wound to hand, of course, but it's too late now. We're only getting movement 3, so we can't even reach the monastery. That's the problem here. I guess we have to replan that. We could still use the march to explore, not a core tile, but nevertheless. We can still use Charm here to interact, and maybe we pick up a spell after all. We are already at 4, 5 with the bonus, so these two would bring us up to 7, and we produce a crystal so we can really pick up whatever we want. And maybe we do just pick up the restoration and just live with the wounds. One is on the unit anyway, and if any other comes up together with rejuvenate or restoration, we can just heal them then. And it will allow us to play rebirth to ready units later in night. So maybe that's the play here, or we pick up expose after all. Also forgot to mark the tower with one of our shields. The Oasis can also heal us, but it's movement 5, so it's even further than the monastery currently, but it could be something for the next night, because moving away from Oasis gives you 2 movement points because you are refreshed. You can trade in crystals for influence, because you can hire like in a village, and you can even buy crystals. And it can allow us to kill this, which actually makes us level, get another skill and advanced action, so that's not the worst. We can of course also play these 2 sideways to reach the monastery after all and just use the influence 4 to heal these 2 wounds and pick up a crystal. We're just lacking 1 card. If we had 1 card more, or one of them would be a movement, we could heal them 1 wound from hand. Actually we can't, because after healing the movement phase is already over. For some reason I'm really messed up today with these order of things. With the plan to heal everything, we should just have, actually we can't. If we would have taken everything to hand, we would not have drawn everything, because we picked up the spell and would have had a hand limit problem. But I think it's fine actually. We achieved more than enough for the first day. 12 fame is nothing to scoff at, plus 1 reputation. Picked up a spell, a unit, even though it's just peasants, but we did not reach the core tiles, unfortunately. So the question is, do we move to the monastery, pick up a crystal and get rid of these 2 wounds, so the deck is wounds free, and have another crystal? Or do we stay at the tower and pick up a spell? And if we stay here, we can actually also explore. That's also something to think about. All in all, it sounds better to just keep the wounds, explore, pick up a crystal. It also means that the horsemen will actually come to us. So we might take a jab at the first horseman. Would be so nice if we can hire something nice in the tower or learn a spell and then have a go at the first horseman. I actually like that. The monastery brings us closer to the city, and it also allows us to learn that advanced action depending on what we draw. And it can be a place to hire, of course, too. But we can also move there, hire, and then loop back to the horseman. It's also not a big problem. I think I like staying here more and more. It does mean we need to do a bit more wound management, but I'm not actually opposed to picking up restoration, because tremor, as said, is not that good because it doesn't scale well with just 1 or 2 tokens that we are taking, and earthquake doesn't do much. Expose is just nice, but then again only 1 horseman is physical resistant, and we didn't pick up elemental range attack yet, and mass expose doesn't do much. I feel like picking a fight with a horseman and then bloodied casting rebirth to heal and ready units, maybe if it's at night, that sounds good. But restoration can just be useless if you don't have any wounds or don't plan to pick them up. But let's try it, I think. And we would start with March anyway, and then we can decide on, depending on what's here, also how to proceed. So I screwed up the planning quite interesting. That's surprising to me at least, that I did not realize that if we wound the unit, we can't use it to move, of course, because we have to heal it first. And if the healing banks on going to the monastery, where we need these for movement points, then that won't work. But if we would not have wounded the unit, we would not have drawn the whole deck. So we have to live with how it is, and I think it's fine. The 2 options would be to go to the monastery and still heal with these cards sideways. That would still be an option, because we can still come up with movement 4, and this is influence 4, even 5 with the bonus, but we only need 4 to heal these 2 and pick up a crystal. But we would not reveal a core tile, and we go for the second option, which is actually staying here, play the march to reveal this, and then play this with these 2 cards sideways, the bonus and the crystal we produce to pick up any spell we like. So we play the march first for movement 2 and reveal this tile. And now we have only 7 left, which does mean we use our D8 again. Comes out as 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So which is this tile. Once we have revealed this, we can stop rolling because the rest is random anyway. Let's roll for orientation. It's blue, so 1 click. We have a green mine, diggers, another glade, and a village. So not bad, but also not that fancy. And in particular, nothing to get fame from. Just a token with 2, and that's really it. But then we use the white source die to cast Charm in the tower to get influence 4. If you use this during interaction, you can either gain a crystal of any color to your inventory or get a discount of 3 towards the unit. There's no unit, so we get a crystal. But we played 2 more cards sideways because we cannot rejuvenate them to give us 2 influence. But also the bonus here, which is 7 in total. So with the crystal we get, we can just pick up any spell. And I do want to try to go for restoration, rebirth, overexposed. That might be a mistake, but I do think healing and readying units might be good, especially since I'm not healing at all then. So these are in the deck, and we pick up this because it's the last turn, we can't use it. And the crystal we need is green, so we just need to use the crystal we produce with charm. And that's it for the first day then. So overall, quite interesting how this went, and we did not reveal core tiles yet. That's really not good, because in the core units there are much better units, of course, in the Mage Tower and Monastery, but it is as it is. We picked up 2 spells, Restoration and Charm, but also 3 wounds, 2 in the deck, 1 on the unit. We did pick up a movement skill and the peasants, as well as day sharpshooting, which will now be worse at night, of course. It's just 1 range attack then. So that's it. We did not reveal a horseman yet. The tactics are both removed from the game as usual. We do ready the peasants, but they stay wounded, of course. We refreshed the spell offer with offering sacrifice again. Okay, I see that every game now, as it seems. The dummy picks up a white crystal due to expose and shield bash, so a blue card, which turned out quite nicely. Actually, I'm just realizing that if I do not fight the horsemen in the 2nd, 3rd and 4th round, for example, 1 by 1, I will have to fight more than 1 in the end at the glade or portal, which then is a fight with more tokens, especially with the horses involved, so something like Tremor might be good at that point. But the plan is really not to let it come that far. So that's enough for the dummy deck. Advanced action offer, refresh with ambush, which I do really like because it doubles as a movement and attack or block card. That could be good to attack horsemen. There's a snowstorm, and that might be really good to just learn that in the tower and then try to take down the first horseman with this. The Spellforge in the monastery is replaced with training, and the 3 new silver units are peasants again, magic familiars, now that's interesting, and another magic familiar. The plus side is they are quite powerful and they can be hired in the tower, but they are quite mana hungry. Let's see if we hire them or even both. At the end of each round, the horsemen will also start towards the portal, and if they can move either direction, and I think this and this will both be the same, I can choose. Let's move them here. And I think I can choose again, and I do want to just move them in my direction here, even though they block the plains then, and by this the movement to the core tile, but I would like to move via the mine probably anyway if I want to go there, and now it's easy to actually attack them. And once they enter a space that's already revealed, they will be turned face up. So we pull a horse for them, and the horse is revealed together with the horseman. So this is Famine, so on the lower right, which is fire resistant, which is nice with the snowstorm. And on level 3, he has 8 armor and a swift physical attack of 8, which does not matter if I can pick up the blizzard. That would be so insane. And the horse, which makes it much more complicated, of course, is a werewolf at that point, which is just armor 5, so that could also be insane. If I somehow manage to cast the blizzard with swiftness or concentrate swiftness, I could just blast them at range, but it would be extremely lucky, I think. They are both swift, but it would not matter if they die at range. Let's make it the other way around here, so we see the horseman in full. So that's that. This one can just move here, I think. It's 2 spaces closer to the portal. Same here. I think I don't want to make it much more complicated. And this one at least goes here, let's say. They're only revealed once they touch a revealed space, which I did not scout, of course. But that's their movement. The initial source is quite red and black. But I do have 2 blue crystals for this snowstorm, which I do like. So maybe we can pick up Charm right away. That would be so awesome. So we are shuffling the deck and then we are ready to go. That should really be enough. And we draw up to 5 cards, unfortunately, because we did not level enough to already have a hand limit of 6, and we did not have any keep or so. So let's draw our 5 cards. Stamina, Rage, Crystallize, Rejuvenate, and Swiftness. Which brings us to Tactic Selection. At that point, we need to think about our first turn. The starting hand has a distinct lack of influence, unfortunately. So if we want to learn the Snowstorm, we would need 6 more influence. Rejuvenate could free us the peasants to give us influence 2. The source also only has red, and we have no red card whatsoever. We could crystallize and then wait a turn, reroll. We could also learn Offering, by the way, because we do have 2 blue already, so another white would give us a ranged ice attack of 12, which is almost enough to kill these 2 tokens, because they're just at 13. And with the Knight Sharpshooting, it's already it. So maybe that's better. It would leave us without any crystals, but with the first kill, that's probably worth it. So I'm thinking about preparation, to be honest, to maybe pick up Charm. So we're already at 5 and gain a crystal, but it's not giving us back the white crystal that we need because we do not have white. So maybe it is just crystallizing a red to reroll, not pick up a card. We could pick up Improvisation, of course, that's 5 influence, or Threaten, but Threaten would push us down to 0 again, which I do not like. We could also use Charm to pick up the Familiars and then use their influence 5, if powered correctly, to then help with the spell, but it would leave the unit already spent. But we do have Rejuvenate, and the plus side is that Charm can give us enough influence already, but we would not get the crystal and we do not have white. So maybe Preparation is not the right way to go, maybe Midnight Meditation is, and exchange cards, the Stamina and the Rage, don't do much for us. Problem is that we need a lot of mana. At this point I stepped away from the game for a few days, so I'm just picking it up again. But I think the basic decision here is, can we leave the tower without learning a spell first? Because the offer with Snowstorm and Offering is quite interesting. I do think Offering is probably the wrong choice because it just wipes out a lot of your crystals, and without a really big fight to make use of the mana you are freeing up, it's just not efficient. And since we do want to fight Horsemen every round and not have a Offering and a Sacrifice round, it might be a good spell still to stock up on crystals, but that will obviously not help me in the short term. So seeing that I already have 2 blue crystals, I think I'd rather take the Snowstorm. But to learn it I would need 7 influence and a mana, and the source is currently only showing red. And it's, I think, the major problem here, that if I want to power a card that gives me influence and learn the spell, that's 2 mana, and none of them have the right color, unless I'm picking up something like Improvisation. If I'm picking up with Preparation the Charm spell, I would need a white and a blue, so both with crystals, which doesn't mean I'm better off with Mana Search, but then I wouldn't have the spell, obviously. Also, with Possess, I can probably just kill these tokens, at least the horse can kill the horseman almost, and then I just need 5 more attack to finish the horse as well. So I think I'd rather wait for Charm/Possess and then try to take the horseman from there. With the opening hand as it is, since I do not have influence, I could heal the peasants for influence 2. With the bonus of 1, I'm already at 3. So it's just 4 really that I'm missing for a spell. But I do not have any advanced action card currently that provides influence. So I do think with the hand as it is, with the stamina, a rage sideways, maybe I can reach the Oasis. And then with the day sharpshooting at night with 1 point and the white mana with the swiftness, that would already kill the prowlers here, which would make me level, so getting another skill and a card. The card could actually be Peaceful Moment, which would allow me to then much more easily pick up a spell, or even just ambush to have another movement card and attack card. But even Intimidate with the influence and attack would also be a nice option, but I already decided against that previously because of the reputation penalty. As for hiring, it's the same thing all over again, that I would lack the influence currently to hire the familiars. I'm just at 3. They're just 1 point cheaper than a spell, and they also need a mana, so yeah, it's the same thing all over again. I could use red at least to pay for them, which would give them an attack 5, which is enough to kill the horse. But unless I'm swapping out cards or drawing cards with Preparation, there's just no way to hire them. Which would actually mean that hiring the peasants could be an option, so I could have an army of peasants, which is not the worst option to be honest, because I do have an armor of 3, and having 2 means I can already soak up 6 damage with an easy heal, but they would not be of any use in the combat themselves. So where does this leave us? I think From the Dusk is out of the question as a sparring power. Long Night might be an option if I neither want Mana Search nor Preparation, just to go early. And Midnight Meditation for swapping out cards, I don't think that's warranted currently. So what would we pick with Preparation? I think we already went through that, and the source is at risk at drying up quite quickly. It's already 1 black die and 2 red. The black die might come in handy if I really want to go for Possess. So it might not even be a die that I reroll if I'm picking up Mana Search, but I do like the option of Mana Search. And probably just rerolling the 2 reds and see where I land. If white comes up, I think the first turn is with playing 3 cards, Stamina, Rage and Swiftness, leveling. It will be a fine turn already. If I'm not rolling white, we might use a crystal instead and then use maybe blue for an arbitrary crystal, or get a green, or maybe even just a red one. So all in all, let's just go with Mana Search and see where we go from there. So even though we are at a Mage Tower, we currently cannot really hire or learn a spell because we just don't have the cards, and we do not see a way, just with Preparation, to pick out a good influence card with a source that's only showing red. That's really not good to learn Snowstorm. It could be good to learn Offering, but Offering is probably not the right spell to take at that point. So we rather go for Mana Search. We have more options because we will need a lot of mana for what we are going to do and the right colors for that. Which does mean it's now the most important question what the dummy actually picks and if we go before him or not. If the dummy goes first, he might even reroll a die. That might also be nice. And a dummy goes for Preparation. That's a bit unfortunate for the next knight, but maybe Sparring Power is also something that we take then. And since I took Mana Search, I think I take it as a win that I am going first. So Norowas is now playing before Coral, and we can play our first turn. And as already strategized, we will try to move to the aces with a sideways rage. So it's movement 3 for the desert at night. Moving away from the aces will be much cheaper because we get 2 bonus movement. If we heal the peasants or not is still unclear, and the idea would be to kill the prowlers with day sharpshooting and a swiftness, but we would need the matching mana. And since black might be good for possess, we will roll it to red die with Mana Search first. The dice come up blue and red, so at least the blue is now welcome because it gives us more options like Powering Stamina or Crystallize. But unfortunately it's not white, so we still have to think about how we want to do this. We could of course just recolor the blue die to white in essence, by either using the white crystal and replacing it, or by just producing white crystal and using it right away. Powering Stamina would leave us the rage, but there's not much to do with the rage because we currently do not want to battle in melee, so there's nothing to block or attack. And we do really want to interact at the oasis, healing for example the peasants or hiring more peasants, getting crystals. Yeah, so I do think using the white crystal to level is probably set in stone, which does leave the blue and the red, and I do think there's no gain in not using the blue here to then get any crystal that we want. And I do think we just retake the white so we can actually cast Possess. So I think that's the best course of action here. Taking green to later power the Rejuvenate would give us more heal, that's true. But after level up we also have to decide what to take. And I think already motivated Intimidate I probably want to shy away from because of the unit strategy and going to the core tiles, playing with Norowas here. So it's either Ambush or Peaceful Moment. For the Possess strategy, Ambush doesn't do much sense, unless I'm powering my block with this. Powered Ambush with a Rage will be block 6 already, but even that would help against the Horsemen, at least not against Famine with an attack of 8 and Swift. We will not block it, so the strategy would really be to just take the wounds, possess the horse, kill the Horseman with that, then kill the horse, and just heal the wounds. That's really the idea here. And as it is, we would already play 4 cards and level. Hold on to this card. I think that has to be good enough. Even though we are just using Crystallize because we did not roll the right colors. But just not using the source, will this be better? I think it's fine as it is. So unfortunately we did not roll the right colors to power the swiftness, but we will still stick with the plan. So movement 3, 2 from Stamina, 1 from Sideways Rage. Norowas moves to the Oasis. We pick a fight with the Prowlers here and use a crystal from our inventory for range attack 3 with day sharpshooting. At night it's 1 point, so it's 4, kills the Prowlers. We get a reputation and 3 influence, which makes us level exactly up to 15 fame. So the crystal is used and the skill is used. We then use a blue source die for crystallize to get the white crystal back. Idea being that if we get possessed, we want to have a way to power that. And we hold on to rejuvenate, but reroll this die. Die does come up white, that's nice. And now we pick a skill. And the choice is between Bright Negotiation, so the influence skill from Norowas, which as you can see for Norowas is either 2 or 3, depending if it's night or day. Whereas the Tales of Adventure are only 2, but it can go up to 4 if you charge it. So I think they both have pros and cons, and since I do not want to intimidate, I would rather take this, but influence would be quite welcome with the way things are currently going. And the other option is leadership, so it increases an attack by 1 or 2, depending if it's ranged or a normal attack. Siege cannot be increased, or a block of a unit by 3. Very nice. And I think I do not want to think about it too much, because I do want to lean into an influence heavy game with hiring and getting reputation with units. So I'm just taking the Bright Negotiation. It's just 2 now, but it's almost already healing point at the Oasis, so I'm just taking that. And just to really hammer that point in, I'm also taking Peaceful Moment and not Ambush. It's also doubling as a healing card, which could also allow me, depending on what I draw, to use it as an action to recoup from getting wounds from a battle. So I'm taking Peaceful Moment. The advanced action offer refreshes with Crystal Mastery, which would be welcome to improve the crystal situation. And Coral adds Improve Fate, which allows the player to draw a card, and if he has the least fame, to also swap out a card. So discard 1, draw 1, which is in essence losing you a card, but it can of course fix your hand. And another player, or in solo yourself, in the next turn you can draw another card. So in essence, for a solo player, it's drawing 2 cards, one now, one next turn, and you could swap out a card. But that's the level up, and it's really the end of the first turn. So we draw up to 5 cards still, which is the peaceful moment, of course. There's a threaten, so more influence, another rage, and restoration, so healing. Very interesting mix of cards. Let's see what the dummy does. It's red, blue, and another red. All in all, it's quite nice. That's just one other card, which is also red. But that's the dummy's first turn, which brings us to our second turn. So we are now at an oasis, which means that we can recruit as in a village. So the peasants are open for recruitment. We can get healing for 3 as in a village, but we cannot plunder. But we can instead trade crystals. So sell 1 for 2 influence or buy 1 for 4. And if we start our turn on an Aces, we gain 2 movement points. And seeing that we do have Threaten and Peaceful Moment and can heal with Restoration later, I'm eyeing this battle here. If we are really taking the attack of the Horsemen, that will be 3 wounds, so heal 3 will be perfect. But it would mean that we have to carry this card until after the battle. So what's the extent of what you can do here actually? 4 influence for the peasants, another 3 for healing. Unless we are playing Peaceful Moment, but if we are not using it as an interaction, we can't heal with this. Healing would be more efficient. And we can also refresh units. But for the peasants that doesn't do much because refreshing them is just giving us the 2 influence back. And there's no other use currently to activate them. So how fast are we playing this? One option would be to now heal them. Maybe pick up another peasant and then hold on to this card to actually go back to the Mage Tower to learn the spell after all. The problem is that we do not know when Charm or Possess will actually come. We can also, just to point it out, go to this side here because the Horseman will actually ignore us. So we can be on the same space, we don't need to attack it, and we can just explore the core tile, for example. But currently we do not have any movement anyway, so we should really interact here and I guess pick up the peasants, that's 4 influence. We could also pick up a crystal for 4 influence, that might not be the worst play. And we do have white in the source, so that would already be in influence 8 if we power Peaceful Moment and just play Threaten to not get the penalty. And 8 is exactly the peasants and a crystal. We could then also just heal the peasants with Rejuvenate, but we could have done that last turn, so it's somewhat inefficient if we do that now. But we do need to see more cards. We also just picked up Bright Negotiation and just remembered, so that's also 2 more influence points. Which does tempt me to just play the Rage sideways for another influence point, so we can pick up the peasants, a crystal, and heal the other peasants. Since I do want to draw, and I'm not sure Rage is the best card. On the other hand, we do need the attack to kill the horse, if we go for the Possess route. So what card would it be? And we need 1 more point of damage for the Horseman itself, because the horse, or the werewolf in this case, has 7 attack, and the Horseman at level 3 has 8 armor. And I do believe I should not stack attacks against both tokens if the attack comes from 1 token, so I should probably use the Possess token for an attack against another one, and then attack kill it. So I'm not sure I can actually group them together. Which does mean I need an individual attack of 5 and 1 of 1, that's what I'm getting at. We actually do have movement, I just realized, so the Oasis is still new, so we don't need cards for this, we could just leave. So a Sideways Rage would get us back to the tower, where Peaceful Moment, Threaten, and Bright Negotiation would be influence 7, which gives us a spell. Unfortunately not a blue or green one, unless we are using Rejuvenate as a green. But that would only give us Tremor, of course, and we would rather take the Snowstorm. So we could power this instead to make use of the source. So that's again 8, 10 influence. The problem really is that these familiars also take mana, which makes hiring in a tower with this kind of offer also cost mana, and we do not have a good mana source yet. So maybe just hold on to the Rage, use the 2 movement from the Oasis with a Sideways Threaten to move to the tower, power the Peaceful Moment after all, because we can't use the source as the mana for the spell anyway. That's 6, with Bright Negotiation it's already 8, which allows us to just pick up Snowstorm with a crystal from our inventory, and then we see where this leads us from there. And the only question is if we also play Rejuvenate to just heal the peasants we already have, to see more cards and have them available for an attack on the Horseman. And we will be able to cast Blizzard to kill the Horseman at range, for example. But we could also play the Threaten with the Bright Negotiation here to pick up peasants, heal the others with Rejuvenate, and then move to the tower next turn. It would be a little bit slower, but it would fill the second slot. The question really is if we pick up familiars or not, and I currently don't see it, since we already need a lot of mana to actually learn and cast spells. So I don't have currently the spare mana for familiars, and it would really fix the second slot. So it's a little bit slower, and I do like the option more and more because I have enough influence to use this for movement with the Oasis. That's 3, brings me back to the tower. Powering this for 6-8 with a die learn this, heal them. Actually no, the idea would be to hire the peasants with the threaten and the dark negotiation and just use the rejuvenate to heal, having 2 peasants then, and then we can go from there with after redraw. Use this to learn a spell, use this after the battle to heal. This makes it a bit inefficient, but we didn't know that we will pull restoration and threaten, so we had to decide this last turn before knowing what we draw in the Oasis. So I do think it's fair enough to do it like this. Let's take it a bit slow, hope that the dummy does not speed up too much and see what happens. So we do have a lot of options. But in the end, we have to decide if we want to pick up familiars, or if not, then we really should pick up the peasants, because that's our unit offer this round. And I do want to fill the slot, so before we go back to the tower, which we can do easily from the Oasis with movement 2 that we get for free. But for now, we will just use Threaten with the Bright Negotiation for an influence of 4, actually 5, with our reputation, which gives us the peasants. So the Threaten is played, and we do have our second slot filled, and we will finally heal the other peasants with Rejuvenate just to see more cards. We could have done it last turn, but we didn't have all the information yet, and I think it's fair enough. Now we have 2 ready units. We hold on to this for the moment and just end our second turn. Redraw. We did not use the source, and it's a stamina and a wound. That's a bit unfortunate, but it's our second turn. Let's see if the dummy keeps it slow. There's a blue, another red, and another blue. So that's fortunate, short turn. That's his second, and we get to our third turn. This wound is really screwing me a bit, because I already just healed. I do not want to make a peaceful moment turn. I do not want to stay here. That's the problem. The idea would be to go back to the tower, but there's nothing that can heal me, and it's not a resting turn. So if we now pick up the spell, we could still do that, of course, with just stamina and the 2 movement we have from the Oasis. That's easy enough. Then with Peaceful Moment, Dark Negotiation, pay a crystal. We've used the white dice from the source then. Pick up Snowstorm, but then we would have Rage, Restoration, Snowstorm, and a wound, so we are only drawing 1 more card. So maybe playing the Rage for movement and holding on to the stamina is the better play. So we know we can reach the Horsemen. We will have Snowstorm. We will have the mana, the black and the blue. So we can kill him. The horse will just vanish. We will take wounds, but we do have a restoration. And maybe that's good enough. We can even kill the horse probably if we take the wounds and just use the peasants to attack. So it's a bit sad to carry over this wound, but it's not the worst thing in the world. Actually, we should maybe still hold on to the rage, because we can then use 1 peasant for the movement for the attack and still have a rage to maybe with the other peasants to actually kill the horse as well, because we will have taken the damage anyway, so it's good to take the fame. And we will have the Knight Sharpshooting because the Blizzard kills the Horseman on its own. Yeah, it's probably the better play. We will have the movement through peasants anyway, so we should probably use the stamina. And we just stick to the original plan. So the wound is a bit sad because we have to drag it around. We can't heal it yet, but we stick to original play. So we just use the 2 movement points from the Oasis and 2 from stamina, although that's not important, but we really want to hold on to the rage, because we do have peasants for movement if we want to. To move to the tower, it's only move 3. Then we use a white die for Peaceful Moment, that's 6 influence. 2 from Bright Negotiation, that's 8. We pay a blue crystal, and by this we are learning Snowstorm in the tower, which does mean this is also played, and these cards we want to hold on to. That's our third turn. Die comes up red. We again did not use Mana Search, but that was on purpose because black is actually good, white was good, and red is also not bad because we do have a rage. So we did not use it. Maybe next turn, let's see what we draw up. There's the Snowstorm, of course, and there's just 1 card we draw from the deck, which is Possess. Now that's interesting. Maybe that changes things. Let's see what we end up with, and let's refresh the offer, which is a Mana Bolt, so more firepower. Interesting. Maybe we do just use Charm to learn this as well. Let's see. The dummy in his third turn plays green. White finally, because I really don't want to hit that, but we do hit another white, of course. Okay, so it's 3 more cards. Yet another white. That's good. Green. And another white, very nice. So by now the dummy deck is only 4 cards and we hit 3 whites out of 4. I don't think we added 1. And we already hit 4 red cards. So it's only just 1 card that will cut the round 1 turn shorter. So we either have 3 or 4 now. But this brings us to our 4th turn. Actually, I think I missed that we do have reputation bonus. So last turn with the 6 from Peaceful Moment and 2 from Bright Negotiation were 8. But we were already at 7 without the Bright Negotiation actually, because we just have the bonus. Which does mean we could have not powered it. That's 3, 2 from Bright Negotiation, that's 5, 1 from Reputation is 6, and then 1 card sideways would have done the trick, or just using the Peasants. But I don't think I wanted to toss any of the cards. And using the Peasant also just feels bad, so it's nice to have. And it was a source die anyway that we did not need. So currently I do not want to power red, so maybe it's a time to reroll both and see what comes up, because we are not fighting the Horsemen now probably, and even if we do, we will just use the black. So let's just reroll this. Both come up blue, but it also means that we are at a constant +3 currently at night, and the charm is just 7, so indeed if we power the charm, we will be able to learn another spell. We can do that with the crystal, take the blue from the source, which would net us a mana bolt, to be honest, and we would even get the crystal back again. But the question really is if this makes sense to pick up now, because we would exchange charm for mana bolt, and we do not have enough mana to play both the bolt and the snowstorm, because the bolt also just needs 2 mana just for the basic effect, and 3 even for the advanced one. Which probably means that we should just think about killing the Horsemen now. That would mean peasants to move. They are just in plains here. So 1 peasant to move in. Then we would have the snowstorm, no, the blizzard actually, with the black mana. Blue from the crystal, black from the source, to take out the Horsemen. That would give us 1 wound, and we would have to deal with an attack of 7, which we are not blocking. Since the peasants and myself all have 3 armor, that's just 3 wounds, that's the way it is. And I can decide how many I take. If I take them all, I would have 5 in hand. So restoration in a forest would be good, but there's no forest anywhere unless we are revealing one here. At least one of the wounds I will put on the peasants that I then already used. And I can kill the horse just with the rage, the other peasants, and the day sharpshooting. If I would have a green crystal, I would be able to heal the wounds right away. Otherwise it will take me another turn. So that's the bad thing. So what about possess? I don't think it's actually that much better than the blizzard, because we will still get the attack of the other token if we possess the horse to kill the horseman, because it does have far less armor than the horseman, so possessing the horseman to kill the horse would be wasteful, and the attack is already 1 point difference. It would mean that we need another point of damage to actually kill the horseman and still take the full attack and still have to kill it. So I don't think it's that much better, because we can cancel the attack also with just the range attack or the siege attack. But it does mean if we cast Charm, we can actually get a green crystal. That's the thing I'm currently thinking about. It would mean that we do no longer have a white crystal, because we need that to cast Charm in the first place. But we could take a green that we then use to heal right away. And it allows us to reroll the source once again. We could also pick up Magic Familiars after all. But I don't think I want to actually, because they do have number 5, but they need 2 heal points. So it's currently less efficient. We could use them to heal. I don't think it's a good idea. Maybe stocking up on more range attack with the Mana Bolt or Mana Thunderbolt is already good enough. It's currently the only spell we could really pick up because of the colors again, because we just rerolled the source to blue. But I really don't think, well, actually offering might still be good to just stock up on crystals. I do like the idea to get a crystal with Charm. Let's just hope the dummy doesn't hit and we can reveal the Kortai, kill the Horseman, and we will really have stocked up on spells. Because if we go now and then think about using Charm later for something, we have to deal with the wounds. That's the problem here. So I do think we need to crystallize, and Charm is a way to crystallize, or in this case, recolor a crystal. And this means we need to pick up Mana Bolt after all. Where Tremor is -4, Mana Bolt is actually a range attack of 6, but it costs more mana. That's the problem. Maybe I'm too fixated on a Horseman, but I do think killing 1 in the first night is a good idea. It will level us. If we kill both tokens, and it looks like this, we will get 11 fame, which brings us to 26. So we will have the hand limit increase, and we will get a faction token as well. So let's get that green crystal so we can actually heal. And we are not getting it in a mine currently, so let's use Charm. So again, lots of options, and we ended up deciding that we do want to play the Charm to actually get a green crystal for restoration after the battle, which does mean we are powering Charm for an influence 4. Bright Negotiation brings it up to 6, the reputation bonus to 7, so we can learn yet another spell. And since we do only have blue in the source, we reroll the 2 red to 2 blue while thinking with Mana Search. So we do have to pick up a blue spell, which is Mana Bolt. Tremor would have also been nice, offering only if we have too many cards, and I don't think this round, well, we should pick up the speed actually. We're again only playing one card. But the point is that we can pick that up and then we get another crystal because we are not using it to get a discount on a unit. And we use this to pick up a green crystal so we can cast Restoration after the battle. Picking up Tremor would mean that we can kill both tokens at range if we would have another green. And we can't get a green because we would need to use this crystal to learn that spell. That's the unfortunate part. If we had rerolled differently, it would be different. We could pick a blue to also cast a mana bolt, but then we are lacking yet another mana to actually get the damage from the spell because it's quite a mana hungry spell. The spell offer refreshes with Flame Wall. Charm was played. The die rerolls, comes up as white. We do just draw the spell, of course. And it's our third turn. Let's see what the dummy does. There's a green, not good. There's a blue, also not good. So it comes down to a 50-50 again. And it's blue, so we do have 3 more turns. So the last card should be the last white. Actually, it's also green, so I miscounted. Yeah, we already have 4 white cards because this is actually a white card. So the special card Quick-Witted, it's quite dark at the edges, so it's not really sticking out as a white card. So I actually did miscount. So there's 4 white, 4 red, so this was actually safe that we would have these many turns. But fair enough, that brings us to our 5th turn. And at that point, nothing else changed, so it's really clear what we do. We use one of the peasants for movement 2 to enter the space of the horseman and its horse. You can be on the same space without provoking them or getting into battle because the horsemen ignore you, but we do want to attack them. The horseman token has an armor of 8 and an attack of 8. Since it's at level 3, the attack is swift, the armor fire resistant. So it's 13, which doesn't mean we are using the snowstorm. With a blue crystal and a black mana from the die, picking up another wound, unfortunately, for a siege ice attack of 8, which kills the horseman. So the horse would vanish after battle. That's 6 fame at level 3, brings us to 21, and gives us a faction token as a reward at the end. But the werewolf, so its horse, will attack us because we can't kill it at range 2 because we are just lacking the mana. We would need 2 mana to power this, so that's not the way. And 1 wound goes to these peasants, which have an armor of 3, so it's 4 left, which is 2 more wounds for us because we really do not want to wound the peasants before using them. So it's 4 wounds in hand. But then we can use 2 attack, the day sharpshooting for 1 and the rage for 5 in total to also kill the horse, so the werewolf here. That's another 5 fame, brings us to 26 and levels us. So let's put the horseman on a different stack. And the idea is then to use the restoration for heal 3. So 3 of the 4 wounds we can actually just toss right away. We are unfortunately not in the forest and we are out of crystals now. But finally we have played a lot of cards from our hand, so we are left with the mana bolt and 1 wound. This is also discarded. Snowstorm is played, so we reroll the die. Comes a blue as well. We get our hand limit of 6 finally on our 3rd slot, and we do get this faction token as a reward too from the horseman, which is the Cloak of the Martyr, which does mean you can place a wound on an already wounded unit this turn, or this combat, but after the combat the unit will then be destroyed. So yeah, it allows a unit to soak up damage twice, but then it will permanently be destroyed, which is nice if you have peasants actually, because that's a total armor of 6 then. And it would be better for better units, but then it would also be more costly to lose them. That's the combat rewards. And we draw up to 6 cards now, but we have quite a few cards left in the deck. There's a march, that's good because we really want to go on. Another wound, a mana draw, which is a bit too late, and noble manners. Dummy then exhausts this deck, which brings us to our 6th turn, and we will have a 7th as well. And before we go thinking, I think it's clear that we re-roll the blue dice, because we do have 2 white cards that we could power. And the mana bolt is currently not interesting because we would need a 2nd mana, which could be one of the source dice, of course. But we really want to power this march. Die comes up depleted and the other one white. Which unfortunately means that we cannot power the march because we do not have green. And mana draw could give us a green, but we would have a 2nd green token that we can't use for anything. But we do have the concentration and another march still left in the deck. So even though we would waste 1 token, it would still leave a green die for the next and final turn, which is probably worth it to get movement 4, because we really need to move on. Noble manners could mean, of course, that we go to another inhabited site and try to capitalize on the influence, especially since we have Bright Negotiation and a 3rd slot. But again, we really need to get to the core tiles finally and reveal more stuff. So I do think we will play mana draw with the white after all and then just turn this die green to get 2 green tokens and use one of them on the march for movement 4. Pay 2 to reveal here and then maybe even play other cards sideways. And I don't see any other option here. So we really need to explore, which means we use the mana draw with the white die to turn the gold die green. This will also go back to the source stand to get 2 green tokens. 1 to power the march, which is movement 4, and we now reveal this core tile here. And for the core tiles we do have to roll because it's obvious what the new tiles are. So I've marked them red, white, blue and green, and we will now roll what tile it actually is. And it comes up blue, so it's this tile where the Horseman currently is, and it's one of the new tiles. And it's the one with the pyramid, an altar, a village and a lake in the middle. And we do have to roll for orientation. White means it's 1 click from its default position counterclockwise. So it's just like this. So unfortunately not a village. That might have helped with all the influence to heal wounds. The pyramid is in wasteland. And the altar we know nothing about, so no idea what it is. And the village is really off position. So we are at the core tiles, but I don't think we will enter this tile now. And we do have 2 movement points left, which means that the mine is in range. The mage tower is in range because these are both hills. And since it's still night, the oasis is also in range. And I do like the sound of the oasis because this could mean we can heal these wounds, since we have still 2 in hand and 1 on the unit. There's nothing to do for the mana bolt, so I think that's our 3rd movement point that we do need. But we could not power the noble manas, so it's just influence 2. 1 from the reputation, 2 from bright negotiation, it's 5. So it's not even 2 wounds. If we can power it, it's just 7, so that's 2 wounds. But we will have more cards. We are just playing 3. So unfortunately from our deck, I think of 6 cards that are left. Yes, we will only see half of them. Going to the mine would mean that we get green crystals. But at that point we would really toss noble manas. We did play too slow. I think that's clear because we don't see all the cards in our deck. And especially March and Concentration would be nice to actually explore more. But exploring would also mean that we are not healing. So maybe interacting now and at least healing 1 wound is the way to go. It will give us a fame, not a reputation because we can't power it. But it would mean that we played everything except a wound. And we will get the 2 movement back from the oasis. At night that's really nice. You invest 3 to reach it and get 2 back. We could of course also go to the tower and hide the familiars in our 3rd slot. And then heal ourselves with them in the same turn. But we would not have a crystal to actually keep them between rounds, so that's a bit of a downer. Which could mean going to the mine now, but then we would have to move again. I think I like the idea with the oasis, and if we draw good cards, we can actually maybe even reveal 2 more tiles and get some speed back to reveal more. There's also the next Horseman, which will get revealed once he enters this tile, so we might be in a good position at the 2nd day to kill the Horseman quite early. But having no crystals is really bad, so visiting a mine, maybe even this one, and just revealing this tile, just to stock up on some crystals would be really appreciated. It's so sad that we are lacking exactly 1 point here, but I don't think we get reputation from the Horseman. Actually, there was a mention in the forums that these tokens are exchangeable for fame or 3 influence on interaction. If so, that would be heal 1 in an oasis. And it might be something I want to do because I then played pretty much everything. I can just draw the rest of the deck and have a final turn with 6 more cards. So in my manual, it's not mentioned. So about the faction token, there's really this small section only, which is 24 faction tokens of 2 kinds, 12 each of 2 factions, reference cards. When you defeat certain enemies, you gain 1, but it doesn't say you can exchange them for influence. But let's see what the online PDF says about this. And indeed, there's a much longer passage that describes the faction tokens, and it's exactly the same as in Shades of Tesla. I thought it was deliberate that it was different, but it's really exactly the same rules. You can only use them in your turn, not more than 1 of the same name. You can exchange them for influence and fame. And I do think at that point, I will just use that to heal. So we are 1 point short of healing everything, but I think that's not important. The important part is that we have an empty hand. So we did have 4 movement points, 2 for reveal. So we have 2 left, which means that with the mana bolt sideways, we will have 3, because there's nothing really we can do with this anyway. And with 3 movement points, we can really choose to go to the mine, to the tower, or the oasis. And we do want to go to the oasis because it allows us to heal for 3 influence per wound. We do have +1 and bright negotiation is 1 wound. And we do have a faction token that we will exchange for 3 influence to heal another wound. Unfortunately, noble manas is just 2. But we do want to play it because we do not want to linger here, and it's in fame after all. So we are up to 27, but we can't really do anything with the fame. So this is discarded, and the mana draw was also played. The nice thing is we played all of our cards and got rid of the wounds in the deck. The die rerolls green, and we will draw the rest of our deck. That's the nice thing about this. Since there are 6 cards left and we do have a hand limit of 6. There's the March, Improvisation, Frost Bridge, concentration, swiftness, and determination. So a lot of movement, which is exactly what we need to catch up a bit and reveal some tiles. So the dummy will announce the end of round in his 6th turn, and we play now our 7th. So if you want to make the most out of this, I think improvisation determination is re-movement. The swiftness is movement on its own, which then leaves us with a concentration and a frost bridge. That's the best effect, because then we can also travel through lakes. Otherwise it's just swamps that are reduced to 1, but with this, swamps and lakes are 1, and we can actually travel through lakes. So we want to power this, and it's blue. We could reroll, of course, with the mana search, but I think at that point it's quite irrelevant. Unless we anticipated we can actually kill something on the way. So we could try and explore first, but we don't have that much movement. So that's just 5 here, which could bring us to the desert and then reveal one of these tiles. And if we are adjacent to something that we can kill, we would have a range attack of 6, of course. We could, of course, also go to the monastery, burn it down, something like this. But I do think we should look forward and explore more tiles. But I do think it's a good plan, actually, because if we can kill something, that would be nice. And we could even use the frost bridge to move into position 2 points more. And then either have 6 range attack or even more movement. So depending on what we see, and if there's lakes or swamp, that would actually be nice because it's even easier to move through this. But currently here there's just these 2 lakes and almost no swamps. So currently it's not of any use. Ending on the mine could be interesting, but if we want to reveal before deciding what to play here, we really have only these 5 movement points, and 2 for reveal means we have to go to the desert, not the wasteland. Yeah, maybe let's just do this and see what happens. So with all these movement cards, we really try to explore a lot, but we do have a chance with the day sharpshooting, concentration, and swiftness to actually come up with a range attack 6, so we could actually kill some orcs, which means that we will play these cards first for 5 movement, bringing us... Actually, I again forget about the Oasis, which means that we already start with movement 2, but I think it actually doesn't change a thing because we can just reveal both then before deciding anything else. So let's play these for 3 movement. So this brings our movement up to 5, 3 from improvisation, determination, 2 from the Oasis, which means 3 for the desert and 2 for explorer. And we are exploring this tile here. And we could still hit one of the new tiles. So we do have to roll here, but at that point it's just 6 left. So let's just use a d6 and do it like the other times. Comes up as 5, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's actually the tile that's lying here already. Orientation comes up gold, so it's not rotated at all. And it's a tile with wasteland and mountains, which is quite a tile with the mountain range, a keep, a mage tower, and a dungeon. That's very nice, but on the other hand, it's also separating us from the next horseman. The horseman will move 2 spaces, and we can decide if the distance is equal, so it can either move to the mountain range or to this space here. This would probably be more accessible, but we would have to move around the mountain range anyway. So the Mage could also explore as this, but we could also think about taking a tower or a keep. Of course, the range attack is now quite useless again, because enemies are then fortified, which means the determination or improvisation might have been better to keep. But the problem was that by just playing the Mage, we would lack 1 more point, and 1 more point doesn't work if I later want to get the most movement points. We can still get 4 here and 5 from this, so that's 9, and cross lakes and swamps. So I do think I will just go on and reveal this tile now, to have something useful to do after all. So we are surrounded by wasteland and mountains and fortified sites where we don't know the defenders and have tossed our combat cards, and range attack is quite useless, so we just play 2 more movement to also reveal this tile. So now we are down to 5 countryside tiles, but we will still use the d6. Comes out as a 1, which is the first tile here. Orientation comes up green, so rotate it twice. And it's also quite a tile that's hard to traverse. But from the regular orientation we rotate it twice, which rotates the monastery away from us. There's 2 mountains, lots of walls, ironclads in the middle, so which then are fortified and physical resistance, so not good. A refugee camp in hillside, which allows us to hire the units that we could already hire and did not vote for. Another monastery, which would allow us to learn steady tempo, but I think we have enough movement cards. And a maze. So all in all, it's also not the best tile for us. The refugee camp is not that useful. We are surrounded by keeps and mage towers, so it's quite unlikely that we can hire stuff there. And the maze is a bit off position here. Although I think the 2 best courses of action are either to circle around this side of the mountain range so that we can actually attack this horseman, next day, easier, and we are closer to this. Or we actually go to the maze because it's all plains, it's just 4 movement points, and we do have 7 movement points left, so we can get there and actually reveal this tile. This could also allow us to go around here. There might also be a dragon or other defenders like orcs to kill the next day, and we can actually start the day by taking the maze and getting an artifact or another spell. And with all the movement we have, I would hope for an artifact. And as said, then we can try to circle around there or go through the mage tower, although it's in wasteland, to pick up another spell. But we do have a lot of spells already. We could also take it slow and rest here. We have enough movement points to get to the mine and then get some crystals after all. But I do think with the day sharpshooting and the spells we picked up, I think a maze is actually not that bad. And if we can circle around to the dungeon, pick up another artifact, that would also be quite appreciated. It would also give us access to a city, but it would get us quite out of position. But if everything fails, we can always just assault a portal at the end of the last night and just kill everything at once in one big assault. So up to 3 horsemen and 3 horses then, that's 6 tokens. But we do have the spells for this if we can get the mana. So I think let's try and get into position for an artifact and see what this city is actually. So with the movement we have left, which is with the green die and concentrated frost bridge and a swiftness, it's 7 movement. We pay 4 movement to go to the maze here and have 3 left to actually reveal a city. Already get rid of the dummy here. So the city tiles we do not need to roll for because they are random, but we will roll for the color. So it's not the green city and it's also not the city that's shown here. We will roll for this. And it's the red city tile. Orientation is green and the color of the city is actually red. The 2 Draconums are both ice dragons. We do have an altar again without knowing yet what it is and a red mine. And the red city is the one that can give us artifacts for influence. And since we do have some good influence cards, that could be really interesting. To get a reputation from the dragon, then go to the city and buy artifacts. So we could start with an artifact, see what this is, kill a dragon, go to the city, pick up another artifact. So we could really stock up. If there's any way to catch up also with a horseman, it would be appreciated to also kill one. But as said, we could also prepare for a final assault at a portal. But that's it then. We've played all our cards. We have 1 movement point left. It doesn't do anything. Which does mean it's the end of the first night or the second round. The dummy picks up a green crystal from Tremor, as well as a red card, and at a point green, red and blue are almost identical. We ready our peasants, one is still wounded, and shuffle the dummy deck. We should also really mark that the horseman is dead. Let's just flip the card. It should be there for the dummy. Mana search and preparation are gone. We can think about to toss ambush and or offering, but I think I will just leave both there. Offering could be good to get crystals. Ambush is still a movement card and I think we need a lot of movement and it would still help with an assault. Advanced action offer refreshes with counter attack and a spell offer with chill. The 2 advanced actions we can learn in the monasteries are Blood Ritual and Decompose. Now that's 2 cards. Both would be very welcome, solving our mana issues or our crystal situation. But again, this tile always appears at the edge of the map for me, so the monastery is really out of position. And this one here is far away by now. Let's get rid of the 2 familiars. And we just see 1 silver unit now, which is scouts. And the 2 gold units, much more important, are the blue heroes with a cold fire block of 8 and Autumn Guardians. Very nice. And they can also only be picked up in a city, so even more of a reason to maybe visit the red city. The source starts with red, blue and blue, and this leaves our deck. We have the Frost Bridge, the Mana Bolt and a Snowstorm, so 2 good range attack cards, a Restoration to heal, Charm to hire with 7 discount or to pick up a crystal, Peaceful Moment for more influence, and that's it currently. If we would like to see some range attack for this, then maybe do the altar and or the dragon. Although our spells, just to point it out, are both blue. So range attack here will not do us any good. But the Mana Bolt can be a cold fire attack of 7. But that would be melee. Yeah, so the spells are not the best to actually kill that dragon. The Flame Wall with the fire block 7 would actually just block it. We will also reveal the 2 altars now, since it's the start of a day. That's just Fame for red mana. And this one gives an artifact. Very nice. So we could get 3 artifacts at least, if we pay the influence here. Let's see what the starting hand is. We also have to move the horseman, I almost forgot. So this one will just move here, I think. Let's move this one to the forest here and reveal it. So that's a war, and we have to give him a horse, which is a gargoyle. And this one we could move to the mountains, but then we could not attack it. Which does mean, I think, I will move it here to reveal it and then move it here. which is death, and the horse is a manticore. Let's rearrange them a bit so that they are closer together. Alright, so let's see the starting hand. We add 6 cards. Mana draw, that could be good. Rage, another rage. Crystallize, okay. Threaten, and a stamina. So finally some movement in the end, but no spells. And the remaining tactics are early bird, rethink, great start, and the right moment. Alright, so what's the plan here? If we go for a spell and artifact, we would need movement 4 or 6. That's the problem with maces, in contrast to pyramids and Ziggurat, that we have to pay this up front. And 4 movement is 2 cards or 1 card and a mana, and 6 movement is 3 cards or 2 cards and a mana. Unless you have skills or use something like the peasants. Which would mean with blue and the peasants we could take the artifact route, but we do not have any range deck whatsoever. So seeing any of the spells would be highly appreciated, which lets me consider rethink or great start. Great start could be really bad if we just get 2 arbitrary other cards, then we would need to enter without range attack, which is possible with peasants and 2 rages. And we do have red in the source and a mana draw. I think that's at least is good. The mana draw is really welcome because we do not have any crystals. So we could use red and blue from the source, which is not white, so just to point it out. So even if we get a swiftness to reach range attack 5 with day sharpshooting, there's no way to power us unless we are also using crystallize. So with rethink, what would we actually drop? The stamina? Probably not, because we need a movement. Threaten we could replace, and we should replace more cards to have a chance to see more spells. If we get a spell that's blue, like Mana Bolt, unfortunately Mana Bolt takes yet another mana, which really makes it a bad spell currently in the current situation. And I don't think going into the maze for yet another spell is a good idea, unless we are taking Offering, because then we could produce at least a few crystals and burn a bit through the deck. So I don't think I'm taking early bird or the right moment, because this would just mean having 1 more turn in a dummy, and I think I would chance it with rethink, then having a 2 and 3 chance and be able to exchange cards. Great start would make it less likely, but I would have 8 cards. And with a maze, having more cards is really needed if you want to go for the artifact, especially since you're investing 2 cards right away, which would leave me with 6 cards to actually have a chance to then also defeat the enemy. And I think that already settles it, because only Threaten is a card that I do not need currently. The rest actually makes me versatile. Mana Draw I need for the mana, Crystallize if I want to change colors, and Rages are actually block and combat cards, even though I can't power most of them, and Stamina is a movement card that I actually need to even get to an interesting route. Unless I'm just going for crystals, but I don't see me doing that. So maybe it's just great start, and then with 8 cards try to get the most out of this maze. We also see the defenders of the tower, I'm just realizing, so let's reveal that. And these are ice mages, but currently I don't see me taking a tower in Wasteland to get yet another spell. We could just move to the altar with the artifact and not bother with the maze. But then again, what would I even crystallize unless I'm using Mana Draw to power Stamina and crystallize? But then I would have 1 less mana in the upcoming turn. With crystallize and then Mana Draw I have even 3 mana. But do I really play Great Start just to play 1 card? That doesn't make much sense. I somewhat committed to the strategy to go into this detour in the edge of the map to maybe pick up Autumn Guardians, maybe pick up artifacts in the city, here in the altar, which really makes it unlikely to actually kill a Horseman. But if we really stock up good on artifacts, that might not be a problem. I'm leaning towards the Great Start because it's actually 2 more cards, and you do need the cards if you want to do the maze. Do we really let that be and just go on? I don't think so. And Rethink would just leave me with 6 cards, and again 2 would be needed to actually get to a good route, and 3 if I want to go to an artifact or 1 mana, and I do not have that much mana, and especially if I have mana cards in hand, which solves some of the mana problem, but then they are not contributing to the movement or defeating the enemies. So let's just draw 2 more cards, and I think we can at least get a spell, for example. And depending on what we draw, we might as well just heal the peasants, then use one of the peasants for movement to get to the artifact route, take the other ones in. Yeah, I just want to see what happens with Great Start. So we're not taking the right moment or early bird, and Rethink would really just allow us to exchange the threat, and the rest is not that bad for a maze, and we do not want to leave the maze behind. So after all, we are just taking the Great Start to have a shot at the maze with 8 cards. We also revealed the ice mages in the tower while thinking, but a tower in a wasteland just to get another spell is currently not what we are looking for. Let's see what the dummy plays. There's just a 1 in 3 chance that he's after us, and the dummy plays the right moment. That's lucky. So we still go before Coral, And we will draw 2 cards for Great Start, which is Noble Manners, that's not helping. And the Swiftness, which gives us a theoretical range attack of 5 if we use Crystallize to recolor. Maybe for once we are getting lucky and can actually kill the token at range, that would be so good. But let's think that through. The Stamina would be something that we could power with blue, which leaves the mana draw to pull another die for Rage or Crystallize Swiftness. But I do want the artifact, so that's 2 more cards. But do I really toss Noble Manners and Threaten just to keep the Peasants? But it will be quite some time until we can actually use that, since we are currently in a maze. Then there will be an altar, a dragon, and then finally the city. So I think that's not that useful. I think we have to drop them. We do have Charm, we do have Peaceful Moment. So I do think we are playing this sideways just to upgrade to an artifact. And with any luck we can kill it with Mana Draw, Crystallize and Swiftness. If not, we can try with Peasants, Rage. But those won't help us, especially not with the next altar. Let's see what the artifact is. So that would be the movement 6, and then we would need to draw. We really want to go for an artifact and have the Peasants as a backup and not use them for movement. So we are using a Source die for stamina and both influence cards sideways. It's a bit unfortunate, but then again, there's no immediate use for influence because there's really too much in between the city and us, like the dragon and the altar if we want to do it, to now hold on to cards like this. That's 6 movement, so we are entering the artifact route of the maze and drawing the defenders. And the brown token that we need to kill is a Hydra with armor 6, of course. So it's not killable with Swiftness and the Day Sharpshooting. Alright, so again 3 attacks that we have to deal with separately. At that point I'm quite happy that we do have the Rages. 6 is really a mana draw and a Rage with a red die and the Peasants, which leaves this to block. Actually, we don't need the Peasants, we just need the Day Sharpshooting. That's nice. So with the Peasants can block, the Rage can block, and we can either hold on to those, which I actually prefer. It will give us a wound, but we will have the Swiftness for this, and we can maybe prepare with Crystallize, because I don't think we need to hurry that much. And getting rid of range attack that early is not a good idea. So having these 2 cards and the wound would mean we are drawing 3. One of them will be the artifact. Or we play them sideways, prevent the wound, and draw the artifact and 5 more cards. Actually, that might still be better, because we do have to move into the desert with 5 movement. But do I really want to give up a crystal? We can always just move to the desert. Yeah, I think I need to try and crystallize at some point. Let's hold on to these cards and see what we get as an artifact. So we are not lucky that we get a token with 5 armor that we can kill with Day Sharpshooting and the Swiftness, which we could have done with Mana Draw and Crystallize by pulling the blue and recoloring it white. We can't do that, so we have to deal with the attacks and come up with 6 attack ourselves, which is Mana Draw, drawing the other die, a red die, to power the Rage. It's 4, and the Day Sharpshooting makes it 6. So we can kill the Hydra, but it has 3 attacks of 2. 2 are blocked by the Peasants with block 2, 2 are blocked by a Rage. And we could block the 3rd with these cards sideways, but we really do want to hold on to them, which does mean we hold on to 3 cards because we get 1 wound, and we will only draw the artifact that we now get, as well as 2 more cards. So it's a little bit of chance, but what can you do? So we kill this, it's 5 fame. The dice are both rerolled, come up white and green. I count that quite lucky. So more colors, the only one we are missing is red, but it allows us to power pretty much everything that heals, concentration, so really nice. We mark the artifact route 6 with our shield, and then the fun part of actually getting an artifact. The first choice is the Endless Gem Pouch. That's extremely welcome. 2 random gems is exactly what we need to get out of this slump here without having anything. And the second artifact is the Golden Grail, so a healing artifact that also gives me a fame. But I think 2 wounds that I could just heal with a lot of healing in the deck doesn't warrant this. I really need the mana, so I'm taking the Gem Pouch. I'm not thinking about that too much because it's really also what gives us a lot of mana in a final assault if we need to, if we break this artifact. Which does mean we are drawing this, and for some reason I placed the discard pile on the deck. So that's our discard pile, and we are drawing 2 more cards, which is Frostbridge, a movement card, that's good, and a Peaceful Moment. A bit too early, but it could also just heal us, so I'm not complaining. That was the first turn, getting us our first artifact, and the dummy plays white, nice. Green, okay. Blue, perfect. So very short turn, and we are now second turn. And before we even start thinking, I think I will play the Endless Gem Pouch, because I am not seeing me playing this sideways. No matter if I need a move point or not, it's really not a point. I'd rather take the crystals here. So let's roll 2 dice. Both come up green, that's 2 green crystals, which is a bit sad since we do not have a single green card, but I'm not complaining. But what else do we do? There's an argument to be had to play the Peaceful Moment. And if we power this, we can actually also ready the other peasants. So that's 6 influence, 3 from Bright Negotiation. We won't get this because we are not interacting. And we can heal for 2 points of influence and ready units for 2 per level. So we only need 6 actually to heal these 2 wounds and ready the peasants. That would take care of this. If you're not powering this, we can still heal the wounds, but not ready the peasants. But it would mean that we free up a mana, which we could either crystallize or use for the Frost Bridge. We need 5 movement. This would be 2. Swiftness could be 2, but there's an argument to hold on to this. And if we heal the peasants, of course, we can also use them, but not after the action, which actually heals them. Which could mean to just stay here for a turn, not ready them, and just crystallize a die from the source. I do like this because it would mean that we have the Swiftness and the Frost Bridge left and draw 4 cards and get rid of all the wounds. But it's not readying the other peasants. But I can't crystallize without an extra mana, so at some point we have to do a turn without the source. And this is just 6 already. Yeah, I think we just take a turn off, and we can't use the same turn to also move, because again it costs some mana. And just to make sure this is not only usable during interaction, it just says once a turn. It doesn't talk about interaction. Even though it's called negotiation, I'm not sure who I'm negotiating with. I'm just taking a peaceful moment, but I think it works. But not the bonus, of course. We will get rid of the wounds, got 2 crystals, and another crystal from Crystallize, so that has to do for a turn. So we continue the turn with Influence 3 from Peaceful Moment, 3 from Bright Negotiation at 6. We could heal 3 wounds, but we just need 2. But again, we are wound free after this, so this is the action for our turn. And we do crystallize a die. We already have 2 green crystals, and I want to use the blue for the Frost Bridge, so I'm crystallizing a white. So in total, the turn gave us 3 crystals and get us wound free, but we could not ready the peasants because we would need another mana for this. But these 2 are then played. Die rerolls black, unfortunately, but we draw 4 cards, a stamina, a determination, another swiftness, and finally a snowstorm. The dummy second turn plays blue, red, and blue again, which is another short term. Very interesting. So we can get to our third. To reach the altar here to get another artifact, we need 5 movement, which looks a bit like these cards. If we want to have a chance to power a lot of this, 1 swiftness we can power the crystal, the snowstorm with the source, which actually means that we cannot power 2 swiftness, so that's pointless. That would already be a range attack of 10 with 2 different elements, with 1 half being physical, 1 being cold. But it does mean actually that the swiftness is quite pointless, and it won't also help with the dragon. So maybe we are using this to move after all. Maybe we hold on to this depending on what we face. This might be better than range attack. But the peasants are quite versatile, so are we using them to move? I don't think so. So are we using just all these cards to move? Powering is stupid because it means playing a blue die from the source, and we can just take 1, and this would bar us from powering the snowstorm or the determination. So powering these is out of the question. This can't be powered for movement. And I think I'd rather have the peasants with block and attack than holding on to any of these cards. And we could move there and then just draw up cards, which is just another turn. We could also then reroll the blue die and see what comes up. But if we are not rerolling into blue or gold, we cannot power them. So that's quite pointless, which again makes me think that we should not power them. And if we are not powering them, we won't get more mana next turn, but 3 more cards. But it really depends on what we draw. It's 2 tokens after all, and only if we can group them, we can probably kill them both. Unless one of those kills the dungeon enemy right away, and then there's a good chance the other one will kill the other one. Unless both are fortified again, that happens a lot to me lately, that I have that bad of luck. But with peasants and a determination and a white crystal, we can get a lot of attack if we just eat the wounds again to just kill the other token. So I do think we just chance it, because I don't really see me wasting another turn. Let's just see what happens. So this is quite wasteful and a bit painful, but we are playing this for movement 6. To get into this Desert of the Altar here, day, because we really do not want to power any of this, because we need the mana from the source for Snowstorm or Determination. We could play the Determination sideways instead of the Swiftness, but 2 Swiftness don't do anything for us because we do not have 2 white mana. Which is why we think that this is more versatile. It can produce attack without mana, it can produce block, a lot of block. So we are playing this to reach it, and we are not spending another turn to draw up 3 more cards, but we are just trying for the altar right away. Let's get rid of these dice. And now it really depends on what we draw here, if these tokens are fortified or not, or if they can be killed at range, because we do have a lot of range attack even with elements. Let's see, we try it with these 3 cards and some crystals and the source is still open, so let's see what this is. This is probably the most important token. And it's a gargoyle, which just is killed by the snowstorm. That's insanely good. And cursed hag, so this is perfect. Finally a good draw, so I'm really happy about this. Which does mean the blue die with the snowstorm is range ice attack 5, which kills the gargoyle. And the day sharpshooting with a white crystal and swiftness is a range attack 5, which just kills the cursed hag. So I'm just taking this as a win. Finally a good pull. So the crystal is used. These are both played. The determination we might just hold on to. I think we are playing fast enough. We are re-rolling the die. The die comes up white. We get Fame 7, which does level us. So we also get one of these cards here and a new skill. But first we mark this with our shield and do get another artifact. And the choice is between the Sapphire Ring. Now that's something, because we do have a lot of blue spells. So blue token and crystal and infinite blue and black for final assault, where I can cast Blizzard and the powered mana bowl. That's insanely good. But let's see what the other option is. And it's the Banner of Command, influence 4. And if we recruit a unit, we can assign this unit to the banner. So we had this in the last game. That's really nice. But we do have an open slot and peasants, so I'm not staffed for slots currently. And I think the best we can do is replace everything with these 3 units if we have that much influence. But actually that's possible because we do have the heroes here. So with some reputation, hiring the heroes and spending them right away for even more reputation and influence, that could even be possible. But I don't think I need this because we have still Charm coming up and, well, Peace Moon we already played, but this is just solving parts of our mana problem. We can't reach the city unless we are going via this without killing the dragon, and I think killing the dragon before the city would even be good because it would give us another bonus that even makes the heroes easier to hire. So the Sapphire Ring would solve a lot of our mana issues with a blue mana token and a crystal. And in the final assault, if we break it, an endless supply of black and blue, that's insanely good. Whereas the Banner of Command could fill one of our slots right away or give us another 4th slot with the influence to also fill it. So that's quite different goals here. But to get to the city to actually hire, we would need to kill the dragon or make a detour here. So we should probably think about how do we even kill this dragon. We do not have fire attack, which makes it really bad to kill this unless we are using the mana bolt. But the mana bolt would profit from the Sapphire Ring, so we actually have enough mana to cast that spell with the corresponding element that we need. We do have white and green in the source, and I think white is usually for the range attack part and green for siege, so probably we need red for the cold fire part, and we don't have red currently. But I do think we have a concentration coming up, so that might be a play. But we cannot block the dragon, and it has a paralyze attack, which would kill both peasants, which we want to replace maybe anyway. So that could be a way to actually kill the dragon while moving to the city. We use the peasants to move, sacrifice them both, and then kill it with the cold fire track from the mana bolt. Whereas this could give us a unit right away if we break it right away. We have an open slot, so we could just take the Autumn Guardians, for example. But how do the Autumn Guardians actually kill the dragon? Giving all units or resistances would be nice to just lose 1 peasant, but it doesn't do anything to kill it. And without fire, there's no way to kill a dragon. So I do like the idea more to look for concentration mana bolt with this to actually kill it just by sacrificing the unit, but then we are in the city with a good reputation. Yeah, I have to try, because we do need to get rid of the dragon. We are taking this because we have so many spells that profit from this, and if we draw nicely, we can use the mana bolt to kill the dragon. Although this would be interesting, but none of the units actually helps with killing the dragon. The heroes can block the dragon, but nothing kills it, because there's no fire damage there. But these were just the combat rewards, so we also get a skill choice and get an advanced action card. And a skill choice is between the cooperative skill Calming the Weather, which reduces the movement cost of terrain by 2, and for the next player then by 1. And the other skill choice is Inspiration, which allows you to flip it and then ready or heal a unit. I think that's insanely good. But we must not forget that we can take Ambush, which is nice because it can move us also to the city and increase any cards we play, which would give us access to the drawing skill or to Tales of Adventure, which is even more influence. But I do think this is far too good. Once we start getting good units, we could even use that for the heroes to get influence 5 twice and reputation +1. So I really want to get all of these units basically in the offer. So I'm taking this. Coral will add another skill, but we have to take an advanced action first. The problem with the advanced actions really is that The Crystal Mastery only gives us crystals of colors we already have, so from 2 green we could get up to 3, and if we power it we can spend them and get them back, but both is not really that helpful. Ambush would be yet another movement card, but it also doubles as an attack increase or a block increase. But I'm not sure we can block this, but we do have Determination, that's 5. And if we get +4 from Ambush, it's already 9, and we need 12 to actually block the dragon. So there might be a chance. Counterattack is only good if you block things, otherwise it's just a simple attack. And we can also think about a dummy. We would give him a blue card if we take Ambush, which is better because he's not getting a blue crystal. He will get a red, and he would get a green card if you're not taking Ambush. So overall, Crystal Mastery would actually be better to give to the dummy. I think I'm just taking Ambush because it also allows me to move to the city without using the peasants. Although we will probably sacrifice the peasants anyway. But let's just take Ambush. So we are taking Ambush as a reward because it can give us a lot of block together with Determination to maybe just block the dragon. But to what end actually? But it's not really useful to block the dragon. But counterattack is not really our playstyle currently because it really scales only if you block things, and the Crystal Mastery doesn't help us at all. So we are taking this. Advanced Action Offer refreshes with Stout Resolve. And it's finally the end of our turn, of our third turn. First we have taken the mace, in the second we have healed and got crystals, in the third we have now taken the altar, get another artifact. We are drawing up to 6 cards still, which is the Ambush, which is the Sapphire Ring. Let's hope we get some good cards here. This is the Mana Bolt, it's exactly what we need, but we just need the red mana now. Concentration would be so nice. There's a Rejuvenate, that's not red mana, and a Concentration. This is insanely good. Okay, this is lucky, but we do not have that many cards in the deck. So there's just 5 left, but nevertheless, 3 out of 8, 2 cards of what we want, that's lucky. Alright, but it was the third turn, so let's see what the dummy does. And it's white. So this card really has a dark boundary, which is tripping me off all the time. As is this, it's almost the same color and it's supposed to be red. Usually the card's border really bleeds into the same color. So that's red, and we do have another red. So it's the first time he's hitting something, but just the crystal, so another red. That's the third, so we are now in our fourth turn. And the whole point was that with the Sapphire Ring, we would get a blue crystal and a blue token, which then allows us to cast Mana Bolt. And as anticipated, the red will give us the Cold Fire attack of 7, which does kill the dragon because he's not cold fire resistant. But we do need red, and this is why we then need the concentration as well, which produces the red for the cold fire attack. Range and siege don't do much because it's just ice attack and he's resistant to that. If it would be fire, it would still lack 1 or 2 points of damage, but we could compensate maybe with inefficient day sharpshooting. And blue is just increasing the attack to 8, so that's also not good. But the concentration gives us the red, so it's a cold fire attack of 7, which would kill this dragon. The Rejuvenate we currently just hold on to, and we do need to move into the city, but I think at that point, since the dummy still has a lot of cards, we just hold on to these cards, these are nice, for later, and we just use the peasants and have the dragon's 6 ice attack that paralyzes destroy both of these units. It's a bit gruesome, but I think it's nice because we are replacing everything anyway. Let's just do that. So with the awesome draw of these 2 cards, our original plan really works out that we can use the peasants for movement. So these were not used yet for movement 2, which means that we can enter the red city, but provoke the ice dragon. And we have no way whatsoever to deal with the ice attack of 6 that paralyzes, so we are just killing both peasants. Both have an armor of 3, so the damage will be neutralized after that, but these are now gone. We just sacrificed them to the dragon, unfortunately. Which means we can retaliate, so we are using the Sapphire Ring to gain a blue mana token, this is this, and a blue crystal, very nice, and a fame. So we are up to 40, that's the Sapphire Ring. And then with the concentration produce a red token, which allows us to get a cold fire attack of 7 that kills the dragon. We would even have an inefficient attack of 2, so even 6 would have been enough, but I'm not complaining. So the Mana Bolt did its job and killed the dragon, which is 8 fame, which exactly levels us and gives us 2 reputation. So at the end of turn we will get our 4th slot and now have an armor of 4. And we just hold on to the rest of the cards because we don't need to blade that fast. And now we are in the city, so we can actually start hiring stuff, and all the units are available in the city. That was awesome. We needed blue and red, unfortunately, so the source only has white and green, which is why we are not using them for anything. We just leave the source as is. That's our 4th turn. Let's move the city card here, maybe. This we already have taken care of. So let's see what the dummy does, which is green, blue, and finally we hit a white, which is another white, another red, and another green. Let's compress this a bit, which does mean he has only 2 cards left in the deck, but it doesn't matter. We have 3 turns now. So we play our 5th, and we should have drawn up, by the way. There's a march, that's not helpful. An improvisation, okay. and a restoration, which is also not that helpful. Which does mean our influence card, at least the charm, is one of these two cards here. So let's see how we deal with this. So we're only lacking the charm really. That would be awesome. It's a discount of 7. And we do have white in the source. Because I do think the course of action here now is to hire and fill the slots again with all these nice units. And we should start with the heroes really. Our +2 is now worth +4, so it's just 5 influence to hire them, which is nice because it's just an improvisation. If we could power it, I'm just realizing, so we do not have red again. But we should also probably think about what we do afterwards. It's probably just moving away here to the dungeon, maybe get another artifact. We are not reaching these anyway or have any firepower to kill them. And we have 3 turns left, so there's really no big hurry. We should probably try to get back into action with movement after we have hired a bit. I currently don't think we have any wounds left, so the restoration doesn't do anything. The rejuvenate could be useful to ready the heroes to use them again, as we can do with this, so we can even use them 3 times. But the idea probably has to be to do this in separate steps, so we profit from the reputation several times. So if we are hiring them now, we could use them to increase the reputation so we have another bonus next turn. So let's see how good we can make this. These 2 cards are not really that useful because we probably do not fight again. Getting into position would be good enough with a lot of movement, but these 2 cards do not do anything. That's 2 influence and that is another 3, but we also have the bright negotiation and the bonus here, so maybe we don't need to play all this now, because I do think we can also try to get an artifact. So we are starting off with 5 influence right away. If we hire the heroes, the influence bonus is doubled, so we are starting off with 7, which means we only need 2, which I believe is these 2 cards actually, because I don't need them. We can't use Rebirth because it's day, and healing is not relevant as is determination. So that's 2, 5, 9 gives us the heroes. We can then ready them with the green die by rejuvenating them, because it extends to level 3 units, or just with this. But I do like that we can reroll and maybe hit red to get even more influence next turn. But it would mean that we maybe cannot power ambush, but we do have crystals. Because this gives us 10 influence right away by using them twice and gets us 2+5 reputation for the next turn. Or we just use them once, do not ready them, and just pick up the scouts with the 5. I really want to pick up all the units and at least get an artifact. I think that's the goal here. And the +5 makes it so much easier. But we only have the interaction now, next turn, and then we probably want to move away. The last 2 cards are the Charm and the March. It's easy enough to reverse engineer that. Which does mean also with the white we will have 7 discount here, 5 there, that's already 12 without even the bright negotiation, and we couldn't use the heroes again. But I'm tempted to use the heroes twice now to get the +5 bonus next turn. That's a net +3, but what do we do with 10? Maybe just pick up an artifact with this. We are overshooting by 1 and can't power this next turn, but we want to power the charm anyway. I think I like that. The idea would be 2, 5, 9 heroes, using them twice. 10, reputation maximum, 13, artifact. Draw the artifact and the rest of the deck. Charm with +5 is the Guardians. Charm with the discount would be 7, bright negotiation 10, 15. So it's even 4 overshooting. So we could just get the crystal if we want, or just hire the scouts, which is probably better. But we can also ready the heroes again if we want to. Yeah, I think this will just work out, and let's not optimize it further. I think it's good enough. So we are playing 2 cards sideways with the bright negotiation. It's 5 already, and since we want to hire the heroes, which double our reputation, we will get +4 from reputation. It's 9. So 5 and 4, 9. Means we have used bright negotiation at this turn. Played these 2 cards because we won't need them. We don't have any wounds and we won't fight anymore, which gives us the heroes. We then use them for 5 influence and get a reputation. Use the green die to rejuvenate and ready a level 3 unit, gives us another 5 influence and another reputation. So we are now maxed out and have 10 influence, and we bump it up to 13 with improvisation march. And in the red city, to have influence gives us an artifact that we will draw for our second to last turn. But we will hold on to ambush, so let's just we can't, because I think this is during interaction and we don't know the result of the reroll yet. So let's choose the artifact. It's an emerald ring, so even more crystal and mana. Or the Book of Wisdom, which allows you to throw away an action card from your hand to gain an advanced action card from the offer. that has the same color. So you can just swap that out with something better. Or you throw away an action card from your hand and get a spell of the offer to your hand with the same color as the action card and get a crystal of that color. So you can later just pick up a good spell before the final assault. And I think we don't need to think about that because we don't need that much green currently because we have 2 crystals and we do already have a ring and a gem pouch, and this is just far too valuable. We will have a charm and a march coming up, so we could even exchange the march with the stout resolve, which is even more influence. So we are taking the Book of Wisdom. I think that's not a question. But I think that was a quite successful turn, which means that we are drawing up. And this should be the Book of Wisdom. And then we should draw a march and a charm. That's the charm. And there's the march. And the movement cards we probably want to use to get into position, because we really need to get back into action. Although if we are not killing them now, we will have to assault them at the portal later, which might be a reason to fill the last slot also with a good unit. So to get into any position where we can actually hire the unit. Maybe taking the keep is then the way to go, which gives us a hand limit increase and a place to hire. But it was our 5th turn. In the 5th turn, the dummy exhausts his deck. So we can play our 6th, which I think means readying the heroes again for 5 influence. And we have a bonus of 5, that's already 10. Casting the charm, that's 14. Bright negotiation is 17. And for 15 we get the 2 units, so we also get a crystal. Which could actually mean that in the last turn we are using our units to also try and take the keep or the dungeon, but it's a lot of movement that we need. But you should have rerolled the die, but it's also black, so it doesn't matter. So the really interesting question is, can we reach anything with all of our units? We could ready the heroes and not use them now, which would mean that we just in quotes get a 5 from reputation, 3 from bright negotiation at day, that's 8, 4 from influence, that's 12, that already gives us the guardians, and the 3 discount with the 1.0 would give us the scouts. So we have 3 units which are all unspent, and in the final turn we could then try to reach anything with at least 8 movement if we use the crystals, but the book unfortunately doesn't have really a good target then. Because the Stout Resolve is like an improvisation, only good if you can toss cards, and especially wounds. But with 8 movement we could, for example, reach the tower, but it's not my preferred goal, because we really need to get to the portal. But getting here is already 9 movement, which would be the book sideways. We see the defenders, and then we can start the knight with taking this, so maybe that's the play here. But I'm actually not fond of using the crystals to move, so probably we are not getting that far, to be honest. If we don't reroll into something, because the last die is then white, the others are already depleted to black, we really just have the scouts to move. And this, that's 6 movement. 7 sideways, so if we can power it, it would be 9. But we could also ready the scouts. We are not getting another artifact, so this is unreachable if you also want the guardians, because this is 23 in total. And we do have a lot of influence sources, but not that much. Although we are close actually, because this is 7 if we include hiring. So this is 10, 15, and if we ready the heroes, that's 20, which does mean using the Book of Wisdom for Stout Resolve could get us another 2, but this is not a wound, so we can toss it for 3. And I'm sure I want to do that anyway. My only fear is really that we are running out of time. We did not pick up the scaling spells, and we are running into a lot of different tokens here. So there's an unknown horse, and all these horsemen do have a lot of armor. So that's 6, 7, and 8. It's already 21. With these 2, it's 31, and an unknown horse. And we do have spells that can produce 8 siege damage. Then the mana bolt, I think that's over 10 in total. We do have the swiftnesses, of course, and the night sharpshooting, ambush. It might be enough, but it will be quite close. But it would be nice to use the units that we are now hiring in the last turn. Book of Wisdom currently is quite useless because we only have green cards, and there's just 1 green advanced action or spell, so it's really just Stout Resolve. We can reach the keep actually, because it's 5, 7, 9, 13. With 2 crystals, it's 8, 9 sideways, and the scouts twice is another 4, that's actually 13. We would only have the Alternate Guardians unspent, so an attack of 6 plus the Night Sharpshooting would be an attack of 7, but no other units. I'm not sure this is a good idea, and we would lose the crystals. This is really not the best terrain, because we need to either go back here or go here, but we would have to reveal this tile, otherwise we can't really pass there. And it's night, so we are at the wrong end of the forest again, so I think going this way is better. Crossing the desert is a bit sad that we need to start with this, but the plains are okay. What I do like is getting to the keep to actually know the defenders. I think this will be key in the beginning of the next night to plan the assault. Or if we need to go around this actually, which could be a play to just pick up some crystals. But I do like to get the hand limit increase, even though it's just 1, because we did only take 1 keep. So maybe readying the heroes and picking up the crystal after all is the best play. Well, it depends on the reroll. If it's gold or green, we could take the crystal. Actually, 1 green crystal is definitely enough to get us there, because this is already 7 then. And with the scouts, it's 9, and it's exactly what we need to see the defenders. So I think we shouldn't be afraid of this and just ready the heroes. Alright, so we need to pick up the other 2 units. That's 15 influence that we need. We do start with 5 and 3. Bright Negotiation is already 8. Casting Charm with a source die. We reroll the other die, we forgot that, to black. So that's already a total of 12. And we can decide if we want to have a crystal or a discount of 3. Since we have 1 more influence than we need for the Alten Guardians, 1 more with the discount gives us the scouts, so we would not need to ready the heroes. But we are interested in getting this crystal actually, because we are lacking crystals. So we are readying the heroes and using them right away, which is another 5 influence, which does mean 12 plus 5 is 17. It's more than enough to hire them both, and we do get a crystal, and we do want a white one, which means Charm is cast, we hire both units, and the skill is flipped. The Book of Wisdom doesn't have a good target, and we do need all the movement we can get next turn. So let's hope we reroll green or gold, and it comes up black as well, unfortunately. But the dummy then announces the end of round, and we are in our final turn. And the idea would be to at least see defenders of the keep, so we have the chance to decide in the first turn of the night if it's worth taking or circumventing. Circumventing would mean it's still wasteland and desert, but at least desert at night. It's 8 points instead of 4, so that's a bit sad, and we would lose the hand limit increase for the assault. So scouts are movement 2, that's 3, that's 7, which does mean we can leave the city for 5 for the desert, 2 for the mace, but we will need 2 more, so we are powering one of these 2 cards with a crystal, because the source is dry to actually get here, which reveals the defenders, and it's just crossbowmen. That's so nice. But that's the end of the second day, or round 3. Dummy picks up a red crystal due to offering and gets a blue card. I think again, I'm not using control of the offers. Counterattack and flame wall are both somewhat scaling, especially if you can block some stuff. So especially something like the horse, if you use a determination, that's 5 block already. So counterattack would already be an attack of 7 that might come in handy. So let's just leave them be. The advanced action offer also shows a blood rage, and the spell offer demolish. Great start and right moment are burned, but we won't have a third day anyway. We flip the skill, ready our units. Could not use the guardians, of course. The monastery actions refresh to Song of Wind and Magic Talent. The last silver unit is guarding golems, and the last 2 gold units are fire golems. So quite lucky that these 2 are already hireable in a keep. And we have ice mages. So these we can't pick up in a keep. Let's shuffle the dummy deck. Source rerolls white, red and black. I think we don't need the city card anymore. And this brings us to our deck. We do have the ambush, that could be interesting. Book of Wisdom, of course. Charm, where now possess is more interesting. Restoration might be something if we can make a good first assault and then have to recoup from this and maybe even ready the units. Heal and ready. This is actually extremely good. Mana Thunderbolt would be nice to make a ranged ice attack of 9 or even a siege attack depending on the tokens. But currently we only know, actually we do know the rest of the tokens. So the horsemen are now all going into the glade here. So let's just put them here. So this is the final horseman, of course, that was known already. That's Pestilence. And let's draw him a horse too, which is a Minotaur. Let's make that nicer here. So, but that's what we are facing. So 15 armor from the horses and 21 from the horseman itself. Doesn't sound that much, but we are in a 4-round game without blitz rules. But this would be really nice to get going as a range attack. We do have the Sapphire Ring, of course, and the Snowstorm or Blizzard. So getting the spells with something like this in the same hand early might be really good. We could recoup and ready with this. We really have a lot of options to ready our units again, to maybe use them twice if we are not wounding them. But it's pretty much it. So we are banking on a good range attack with Mana Thunderbolt, Blizzard, with the pouch or the ring, and then maybe Possess to also kill something else and prevent another attack. The Guardians can also make us assign damage to some of the units. The Fire Golems would really be appreciated to have some more ranged fire attack. But it all depends on what we draw, if we can take the keep, and yeah, how this all pans out. If the first assault makes us level, we will get another skill and one of these cards, which should give us a lot more firepower again. Maybe picking up the Flame Wall with the Book of Wisdom is a nice idea, because it is 6 tokens. So it's already a fire attack of 5 plus 12, if we are not killing anything at range, of course. So that's 17 fire attack, that already kills a lot. And only 2 of the tokens are actually fire resistant. but even Lethal Chill or Disintegrate might come in handy. It really all depends on in which order the cards come out. But I think that's it for preparation. So we can start a Final Night, and first we draw our starting hand. There's the Book of Wisdom right away. That might be good. A Swiftness, okay, some range attack. Ambush, Rage, another Swiftness, and a Rejuvenate. That's not the best starting hand, but we do want to take the key before going any further. And the tactics we can still choose from are From the Dusk, Long Night, Mid and Meditation, or Sparring Power. So I do lean a bit to Sparring Power because it could allow us to make some really big assault, because we need all these cards in concert. We need the mana sources, we need the spells. We have 3 spells at least that we want to cast. With the Book of Wisdom we might now pick up even a 4th one. So Sparring Power might make us crunch through our deck, get into position with the keep, and have everything under Sparring Power or in our hand already, and then just do one big assault and try to kill everything. That might be the best play, even though we have these cards that can actually ready units. But I do think taking the keep now and then readying the unit right away might just be the easier play. Also the skill here then of course means that we can use the units now to approach the portal, because we will not make a second assault then. So taking the keep, hiring the golems for example with a +5 reputation, well actually we will be at +3 again. With the Bright Negotiation at night we will be at 5, so it's only 3 missing. But I do think filling the 4 slot with fire golems is probably a good idea. Use the heroes for example. We have the reputation to always use them, so it doesn't matter that's an assault. I think that's the best idea here, and this all leans heavily into Sparring Power. Mid and Meditation could help shedding the wounds, which we might redraw right away, and Long Night might also make it happen that we can use cards multiple times, but I do think getting the cards not together will not do it, will not cut it. So I do think I'd rather go for a huge hand with a huge assault and try to do it in one go. From the Dusk doesn't make any sense, Mid and Meditation doesn't make any sense, so it's either Long Night or Sparring Power, and it's a decision between 2 and 1 assault. And I do think we have far too many good cards that we need to gather, so let's just go with Sparring Power. But we should also talk about the starting hand of course, because we do need to take the keep. We do have only white and red. The Swiftnesses do not do anything, although we do have a point here, and the white would be the point that we need to kill this. The units do not have any abilities outside of combat. Maybe the scouts do, which might mean that we just use this to ready. We could use the heroes of course to hire the golems. That would be, even without Bright Negotiation, enough then with the bonus. Even though it's +3 then, that's already 8, so we can already hire them without even this. So I think I'd rather play some other cards that I don't need for the 3 influence we are missing. So the point I'm getting at is that Rejuvenate might just heal us the wound that we take from 4 attack with 4 armor. So then we don't need any block, because we don't have block here, at least not 4. Or since it's Swift, we need 8. We do not have units with physical resistance. We don't want to wound units, because we would have to heal them. So I think Rejuvenate will just heal us, and the skill will just ready the unit that we need to kill this. Unless we are just playing the Rage to kill us with the red die. But we would need to still get enough movement to even get there, which probably means playing a Swiftness with an ambush. I don't think Swiftness is that good of a card. It's just 3 range attack, and we lack the mana because we do not have a white ring, it's a blue one. So that's movement 4, and it will increase the first attack by 1 if we are not blocking. But the question is also what we do with this. Maybe we do just pick up the Flame Wall now, because whatever we are not killing at range, we will need regular attack 4. And there are only 2 tokens that are fire resistant, so the Flame Wall will be a lot of attack. For example, if we kill 3 tokens at range, it's still an attack of 11. But then again, the Blood Rage is an attack of 9, but the Flame Wall is also fire block 7. We do probably need to block this or kill this at range. But killing at range would mean physical damage, because it's called fire resistant, and we do not have physical range attack unless we are just possessing this and just kill anything else with this. This is a paralyzing attack of 5 cold damage. The brutal fire attack is 6, and the poisonous physical attack is also 6. But I do think the Mana Bolt can be a cold fire range attack. If I'm not misremembering, that would solve this issue. But we also have Possess, as said. So maybe picking up Chill would be better, because we do have the ring. If we have this card with the ring that we break, this will just be without cost, so we can just use Lethal Chill. One enemy does not attack, gets armor -4. And the only tokens which are immune against this are these 2, which are ice resistant, but the other ones we can just, for example, ignore this Horseman and reduce its armor by 4. I don't think with the tokens that we are facing, Disintegrate is that good. Demolish we don't need. Flame Wall can scale, but only if we also have the black mana for this, which we might. But question really is, do we just pick up counterattack, for example, instead? Because this will also scale quite well. I think in the spirit of going rapidly through the deck, that's probably advisable, but Lethal Chill is something that we could try for. This would be also played, and we can just use this point, the ambush point, and rage to kill it, so we would not even need to ready unit now. We probably give it a turn and see what happens then. And we are taking sparring power. So as a tactic we are taking sparring power, and I think I will just leave that here so we can remember putting cards under it, and the dummy will then go before us. So I'm not even going to shuffle this, let's just go from the dusk, doesn't matter. So Cora will set a pace. Let's see how fast she starts. That's red, white, nice. And another white, that's not nice. So that's 1, 2, and 3, which is a lot of red cards. But it was quite a fast start. What we are doing with the first turn is, well, first put a card under sparring power, of course. But then play ambush and swiftness for movement 4, assaulting the keep. It's in wasteland. But our first attack will be increased by 1 or blocked by 2. We do lose a reputation, of course, because of the assault. We then just take a wound because we have 4 armor, it's 4 attack, and just use rejuvenate after the battle to heal the wound. And then we use the day sharpshooting as 1 point. The ambush point is another point with the rage, that's 4 attack, which kills this. So we are not using any crystals, but also no source die, so it can't deplete, which is 3 fame. But more importantly, we can now high end the keep and have a supply limit increase of 1. We're holding on to these 2 cards for the moment. Let's put them here and draw up to 7 cards. So there's a threaten. That's actually helpful because we do want to hire a crystallize. We do want to prepare. That's very nice. A concentration is welcome for the assault. A march and another march. So we are at 7 cards. That was our first turn. So the dummy places second. That's also red. And that's blue. And it's another white, so this is really not helpful. The dummy really prevents us from building up a great hand. So 3 more cards, that's white, that's blue, and that's blue. At least he played a lot of red and white, so he should slow down quite a bit. But we can't help it currently, so let's not dwell over it. So our second turn means sparring power. And what we want to do is fill the 4 slot with the fire golems. I think due to the range attack, they are better than the guarding golems. Although they would have a block that we could use with counter attack. Yeah, but to hire them we would need 8 influence. We have +3, plus bright negotiation, that's +2, that's 5, threaten is 7. So I think we are just using a march sideways. And then we can also crystallize the red or the white. And I think we are taking red at that point so that we have all the crystals, all the mana colors that we need. We do have a white spell that we need to power, but we do have a gem pouch coming up and a ring. And if you are now hiring the fire golems, red would actually be appreciated to have another range attack. So let's just crystallize this. We could think about Stout Resolve to use the Book of Wisdom for March to get Stout Resolve. So we can actually turn wounds into attack. That would already be 5 if powered. And we can use other cards just as attack. Or do we want Lethal Chill? I think Lethal Chill is just good because of the ring, because we can cast it for nothing. And it prevents an attack. It's an armor reduction of 4, so what's not to like about it? Yeah, we should probably hold on for this. So let's just do this turn. In this turn we are playing Threaten with a sideways march for influence 3. Bright Negotiation brings it up to 5. And the bonus reputation that we still have of 3 is 8, which means we can hire the fire golems in our 4th slot. And we crystallize a red die, so we have a crystal of every color. That's the crystallize. And we are also tossing the march because we do need to see more cards, but we will hold on to these here. Which means we reroll this. Comes up black as well. We do draw up to 7 again. So there's the possess, peaceful moment, the pouch, the ring, and this is 7 already, which does mean the dummy places 3rd, and he really needs to make a short turn, which is blue, green, and the green. That's 1 more card, which is another green. So now we have to look how many he has. And it's just 3. So we have 3 turns. So in our 3rd, we will put a card under sparring power. So we have 2 turns to prepare now. And in the 3rd, we need to take all the cards. So 1 more under sparring power for the next turn. And we will draw up twice. And we have 7 cards left. So the question is what to do. And I do think there is an argument to be had to just play the pouch, not break it. Because we would have to carry it over to the battle to break it. And getting 2 crystals now might just be better because we have all the black mana that we want and all the blue mana that we want. So just getting 2 more crystals of maybe other colors than blue will just be helpful. And if you break it, we just get a token of each color, which is 5 in total. And 2 of them we already have anyway. So it's 3, deterministically 3 of colors that we do not have endlessly compared to 2, but we can play the card. That's the point here. We unfortunately did not get a card that we can toss with the book. I think we are dragging the book around for far too long, but we are only drawing up twice and only up to 7 cards. So that's the problem here. Maybe we are using the swiftness to move out of the city after all. Peaceful Moment doesn't do anything for us unless we are hiring one more unit like the Guardian Golems and replace the scouts. And I just looked up the rules and there's some sad news for me, which is both that this is still a forest, I think. It's no longer safe space. If anyone was in the portal when they entered at the end of the 3rd round, they would be out of the game. And if we now enter the space, we have to attack. It's an assault. But the sad news for me is it's both movement 5 to enter because it's still forest. And even more importantly, they are fortified now. So this is the reason why you attacked them earlier. All these tokens now have fortification, which is somewhat still okay because both the spells I have are siege damage, the blue ones, if I want to. And the Possess, of course, also prevents an attack. But that means we do have to really get into close combat. Which makes me think that I should have used the book on something like counterattack or Flame Wall after all. But currently we don't have that many options because all the cards we have are like white. Yeah, but I can't justify holding on to this. Maybe the Guardian Golems are good after all. At least better than the scouts. They gave me 1 siege damage, which might make a difference. The armor isn't that much larger, unfortunately. I get the feeling that this might be a learning game for this scenario, which is nice because it's a new scenario. So if you just ace it in the first try, that would be kind of sad. And there's a lot to be said about this scenario, but let's keep that for later. But we only have 3 turns, that's a problem. So we have 2 options, either try to get all the cards for 1 big assault or try to get going earlier, but with these cards we can't get going and we have only 3 turns left anyway. So I don't think it makes much sense. We need a lot of movement to enter the space, unfortunately, which makes me think I probably just stick with the scouts because I can produce movement and ready them right away to also have them for the assault, because this skill will be useless otherwise. I think with Possess and Lethal Chill we probably have a good chance, so we should hold on to this. But what do we do with concentration if we don't have a swiftness left? But it's range attack. What does it do for us? Probably not much. I think counterattack might be good if we end up blocking a lot of stuff, which could happen. This is no longer that good because I just realized they have fortified. So it's just a measly 3 attack. So maybe using the block is better because we can actually convert it to attack with counterattack. So counterattack might be really good here. But if you've already played Rage and Threaten, I think we need to get rid of cards. The concentration might still be valuable just to change colors. But I do think the swiftness I just have to toss now. That would be 3 more cards. 1, 2, 3. 1 under Sparring Power. So we would have to draw 4 cards. That doesn't work out. Maybe it's just Stout Resolve after all. We will get wounds. And in Powered is already 5. And we can use other cards. But we won't have that many cards. It boils down to the point that we need to draw everything. And with 8 cards in the deck, 1 under Sparring Power, in the final turn we need to then get everything, which is just 4 cards. We need to draw 7. And if we draw good, we want to keep the cards, so we can't really do that. There's a village there. I think this has to be the play, to be honest. We need to reach that and plunder twice. This makes it much more easy. But as movement 6, we can use the scouts. But one plan was that we can then use them later to actually come up with the movement for this glade space. So we are playing this. There's movement 3, 4, 5. It's probably just 6 with concentration. I think I'm not optimizing this and I'm playing a bit too fast. And we are losing the keep supply line then. This doesn't sound like a good idea. Do I hold on to concentration? Draw 3, 1 under Sparring Power. We won't see the deck. That's the problem. We won't see the deck. I think we need to use the book. We should have used it earlier, I think. But you don't have the right colors of cards currently. We can toss concentration for Stout Resolve, which would mean we have 9 on the deck, drawing 4, 5, 1 under, 4 in the deck. So we will again not see all the deck. If we get to the village, there's 2 more cards. Because we have 8, then 6, 2 by plundering instead of 7. And 2 cards can be the difference. We could also go to the mine, but I think I'm currently more occupied. Actually, the Book of Wisdom we will then play. So that's another card we can replace. I think we have to get to the village. So we are drawing 4. Actually, we are drawing 5 then. 3 normally and then 2 by plundering. From 9, that's 4 left. 1 under Sparring Power. We can plunder again, it leaves just 1 card. I think I do like that, and if we replace the Book of Wisdom, it's already done for then. I think we have to do it like this. So we have to get through our deck, otherwise we are not sure that we have all the cards we need, which does mean we are playing the Game Pouch. We are not breaking it, because we would have to hold on to this. That's 2 dice, which is gold and white, which is nice because then we can choose the color, and we do not need blue. We have 2 white now. The spells are all blue or the charm is white. We just tossed the last swiftness. So I do think we should have enough for the units, which is blue. That's not a problem. Green and red. So either green or red. So determination is blue. Improvisation would be red. I'm currently blanking what cards we picked up actually. The plan with the book is still to get chill, which is then free. We need a movement card and it might be, well, it's not a march, I think, because we have already seen 2, yes. So, but we have the frost bridge, which is nice because it's blue and we have unlimited blue if you want. The ambush we have already seen. Concentration we are tossing. I think I'm taking red then. There's probably more red cards that we still need to power. But it was the game pouch and then we are tossing a lot of cards. The movement 2 and concentration, peaceful moment for 2. Scouts for 2, just to reach the village here, so we can plunder. So we will draw up to 6 cards only because we've left the keep, that's the problem here. There's a rage, there's a snowstorm finally, there's an improvisation, which I think is good. We just took red, but then the dummy plays, and he will exhaust his deck. So we have 2 turns now, and for the turn we will plunder. So it's a reputation loss and 2 cards. Mana draw, it's really good. And a frost bridge, because we need 5 movement. And then for a second to last turn, we put the card under sparring power. And now we have 2 cards left in the deck, which we can just draw by plundering. But we also want to use the Book of Wisdom. But can we justify tossing the frost bridge? The problem is we have no idea what's here and what's there, so we don't know if we get the movement cards we want. So having the frost bridge is probably good, and we should hold on to this. Which really just leaves the rage. And as said, I think with all the block we have, Coldfire block, 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 I think we just take the counter attack. So let's not overthink this. We are using the Book of Wisdom, throw away an action card from your hand, which is the rage, so we are throwing it away. To gain an advanced action card from the advanced action offer to your hand. And we are taking the counter attack because we have so much block that this might come in handy to just generate a counter attack, a good one. But that's it, it's not coming on top of the deck. So even though we are not drawing, we can then plunder. So at the end of turn there's nothing. Dummy announces end of round, don't need these dice anymore. And then between turns we are losing another reputation to plunder the last 2 cards, which is Restoration and Noble Manor, so it doesn't matter. And then in our final turn we are popping Sparring Power, so we also get these cards, which are 4 cards, Determination, Stamina, and the Mana Bolt. Should have known that by now, but we did not want to reverse engineer that. But it's it, and this means we are flipping this to ready the scouts. Other abilities do not matter at that point. We do have this to activate them in an assault, which is also nice, and then we have 1 point of range damage, which doesn't do anything because they are actually fortified, which I did not remember. The advanced action of a refresh is to maximal effect, but I don't think it matters too much. But now we have to plan how we can assault them and then kill all of them in one go. So we have 13 cards. We managed to have 9 in hand and 4 from Sparring Power. And we do have a lot of movement cards, unfortunately, so there's not much we can do with them. So let's put them all here. That's 6 movement already. That should move us into the glade. But we might have some use for them if we play them sideways or something like this. Also this is also not that good. Restoration is not that good, maybe after the battle. But the most important cards, of course, are, let's move this away, Sapphire Ring, that we break for infinite blue and black, which immediately casts a Snowstorm and Mana Bolt. This is then Siege already, this is the important part. And to make this Siege we need green, of course, which is something that I should have known, to be honest. So I guess we use the Mana Draw, because black is irrelevant, to turn one of the black die into one color. Let's mark that with gold for the time being. But I do think it's green probably, although we do not have any other green cards. So we can probably just use this one here. The rest is paid for already. But this is only Siege Ice Attack, so it's not Cold Fire. So we have 2 Siege Ice Attacks of 8 and 1 point of Siege damage. But it's all the Siege that we have. But we can also play Charm, of course. Black is already paid, so we need a white. We don't have any other white cards, so I think that's also a reason to use a crystal here. So then we can possess an enemy. We can make an improvisation play and counterattack. I think that's almost clear. So 2 red would be appreciated. But maybe it's 2 green because we want to use restoration after the battle. It might be better. So let's plan for green. We have an infinite black, so the green we need here, which would mean that we need the crystals for this. And the determination we can also just use. That's the nice thing with power, because it's infinite blue anyway. Alright, so let's pick up the tokens here and start dealing with things. Alright, so the range ice attack we can't use against these 2 horsemen. That's a bit bad. which does probably mean that we want to kill this horseman at range because it's physical resistant. This is war with an armor of 6, physical resistant. So that's 6, physical resistant 10, and we have a combined of 16. So maybe this unit here is also then killed. This is all siege, ice, and they have physical and fire. I think that works out quite nicely. That's on level 3 at 6. Yeah, at 16. Pretty perfect. We do get a wound, by the way, from the blizzard. So let's move that here. So siege kills half the tokens. That's a good sign. Then we do have this paralyze attack here, which I do believe we will just possess this horseman. So we don't have to deal with this. I think it's actually quite trivial to kill this. I maybe have been too fearful. We could block this. Yeah, actually, we do block this. But this is an ice attack of 5, which has paralyze. I'm not sure if this transfers to the enemy unit that is just killed. Ignore special abilities, okay. But the point is that an attack of 5 ice will just kill this, and it's already blocked. This enemy will not attack, which leaves this, which is pestilence, with an attack of 6. We can just block this. It's almost too easy. So these are killed, possessed, blocked, blocked. Everything is dealt for. We don't have a wound. This kills this, and we only need to kill the 2 horsemen, which are not physical resistant. And death has 7 armor and pestilence 8. That's 15. Counterattack with 2 blocked units is already 10. And this is 5, and we don't even need other units. And there's no reason to heal anything, because nothing gets any damage. Yeah, so we just don't need that. Which also means that's the only green we need. At which point I think I'd rather use the crystal again, and then just hold on to the reds and power this like this. And rather not use the units. I think that's it. That's awesome. I also just realized that because we have an endless supply of blue, all these movement cards, we can all be powered, of course, so it's really easy to get to the 5 movement needed. Although we, in the end, probably have to still play 2 cards. And so I think the final question is, do we want to involve more units, or do we really just spend all our cards and leave the units open, which usually I prefer, but we do not have any deck for the last turn, and it depends on what we want to do. But if we go to the monastery, for example, or the Ziggurat, we cannot use units anyway, so probably we should shift some of the things we do to units. And since we will have a restoration, I'm somewhat tempted to just play the Ziggurat, just to get some experience with this, and try to heal the wounds from the traps with restoration. Which would mean that we need green in the source, which means we should really turn that green after all. Use the token here, save the crystal, but then again we would not have any red. But maybe we just take Stout Resolve, because we will have a lot of wounds to then profit from the green in the source and the crystal here. It's a little bit more inefficient now, but maybe it's a nice last turn. And we can use all of our units together with the day sharpshooting point to get an attack of 10. That's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, which frees up the counter attack. But then again, if you can't block, it's quite pointless. So I think I'd rather free up the determination, which is just the heroes. So we're not using this anymore. And we do have an attack of 5 here with the scouts, the fire golems, and the sharpshooting, which frees up the improvisation, which also gives us a red mana, and we save actually two more cards. And for movement, since we can power them, these are actually enough. Although I am somewhat tempted to use the Noble Manor sideways, because we are not interacting, I think, in the last turn. Which gives us 2 more movement cards for the final turn, which I think makes a lot of sense. So let's try that and defeat all the horsemen. So it turns out that with all these spells we have, Possess and 2 nice siege damage spells, it's actually not a big deal to defeat all the horsemen. But we do have to initiate the battle first by moving into the glade. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be a movement 2 space now, just a fortified portal space like with every city. But I'm playing it as it is now. It's a glade in the forest, so at night, which is a downside actually for the final assault if you do not defeat the horsemen earlier, which I think is fair game to make it a little bit harder. So we are breaking the Sapphire Ring for an infinite amount of blue and black. We do need a lot of black mana. Actually, we are casting 3 spells with black, so that's nice already. And we do have a lot of blue also, although it's actually not that much, because we want to use all our units, not the cards, because we have a final turn, and we want to visit the Ziggurat. But nevertheless, it's an endless supply of blue and black, so we are powering stamina and play Noble Manor sideways for movement 5. That gets us into the portal, and of course I realized that the horsemen are now fortified, so we are starting off with a blizzard and a mana thunderbolt. Both are free, but we do need green, and this is why we use mana draw with a white from the source to turn this die green, which also means in the last turn we will have a green. Mana draw is then used. We will get 2 green tokens, but we are not using the second one. To make the mana thunderbolt a siege ice attack of 8, so we have 2 siege ice attacks of 8. We get 1 wound from this, but it's a combined siege ice attack of 16, which means that we can kill these 2 tokens, which have physical and fire resistance with 10 armor, and a Horseman of War, which at level 3 has an armor of 6, which is physical resistant. So these are all dead, which is 2 horses and a horseman already in the siege phase, even though we forgot that the units are actually fortified. But it's 9 fame from the horses, brings us up to 60, and another 6 fame from the horsemen, which brings us to 66, and we level up. By the way, we also get 2 fame from the Sapphire Ring for the 2 blue spells we cast. And after the battle, we will pick up a faction token for this horseman. That's the Horseman of War. Let's flip that. Which does leave the 2 other horsemen and another horse. And these spells are actually already taken care of then. Now in the block and assign damage phase, we are casting Charm. Black mana is free, but we use a white crystal to possess the Horsemen of Death. They are not arcane immune, at least I'm not seeing this currently. They're just like powerful tokens. So we do not have to deal with his attack. We are blocking the attack of the Minotaur, so of the 3rd horse, with heroes, where we use the Bright Negotiation to persuade them to help. Because I do think it's an assault, at least it's a fortified site, so it would be in line with other rulings that this is an assault where they actually need to be persuaded. But it's not a problem for us in this game, which is 5 block, so the horse is blocked. And we're using the Autumn Guardians for the block 8 to block the Horseman of Pestilence, which has a poisonous attack of 6, so it's 2 more blocked than we actually need, so this is also blocked. At that point, this token is not attacking, these 2 are blocked, so we can go to the retaliation, to the attack phase, where we play a counter attack with a red crystal for an attack of 4 and 3 attack for each enemy blocked, so 2 blocked, it's 10. And we also activate the scouts, the fire golems, and use our day sharpshooting for an additional attack of 1, 1, and 3, so an additional 5, which brings it up to 15. And it turns out that the horsemen at level 3 have 7 and 8 armor, no physical resistance, so that's 15, which kills the 2 horsemen. So we've used all of our units and the counter attack, and before that actually, so we have to do it in the other order, this horseman that we possessed has an ice attack of 5, which we then turn against this remaining horse to kill that as well. So that's the part of possess, which means everything is dead. We get another 12 fame from the horseman, 4 from here, that's 16, which brings us to 82, and we will get 2 more faction tokens from the horseman. The ring of course was broken, so in our hand we have these cards remaining: Restoration, Determination, Improvisation, and 2 movement cards, as well as the wound. Dummy has an end of round anyway, but he would not have a turn. Source comes up green as well, it's funny. And we do level up, actually twice, so we will have 7 card hand limit, which is actually important because otherwise we would not draw the card we get from level up. But the skill choice for the level before that is Bonds of Loyalty, so the last slot, which is 5 influence easier to recruit, and 2 silver units are getting revealed. Or Leaves in the Wind, which is a nice skill getting mana, so a white token and a green crystal. But I think we are going to take Stout Resolve, which means that we could take one of the skills from Coral, and we did not actually reveal this last time. So this is the Tales of Conquest, which improves the attack of a unit by 1 or the block. Doesn't matter which kind of attack. And whenever you conquer a fortified site, you get another tail, so to speak, so you can charge it up with shields. And you can use the skill twice a turn if you pay 1 shield. It's nice, but we won't do anything with our units. So drawing cards, influence, and this is all not useful for us currently, which does mean we are choosing from these. And since we are also not hiring, I think it's just this skill here. And I do want this Stout Resolve because we will get wounds. We already have a wound, so it's nice to have that, and we have a lot of green mana, especially since we just picked up this as well. And just that you see another of the skills, let's reveal one of Coral's, which is if it's not broken, which means that whenever you play any card in a turn, you can once per turn play a card sideways of the same color to get the basic effect of the card you just played. And for artifacts you can choose, which I haven't played with yet, unfortunately, because I got it right in the end of the last game and we are not playing Coral now. But it sounds awesome because you can use a March to heal with Tranquility, or the other way around, or you can put another mana die with a sideways promise, all stuff like this. And with the advanced actions it becomes even more interesting. The advanced action offer refreshes with Ice Bolt, and we can play our final turn. Actually we have to reveal these here, which is the Blade of Dominance, which allows you to spend an amount of attack, and if you reach or exceed the amount of attack of the token, so if the token has equal or less attack than you just spent, it will not attack. So you can somewhat prevent an attack of an enemy by spending attack instead of block. Then we have the Blood Fury Dagger, which gives you attack per wound you take from an enemy, up to +6. So for 3 wounds you will get an attack of 6 against an enemy, which is somewhat like a counterattack, but without blocking. And finally the Mask of Fear, reduce one enemy attack by 2. You may not use regular silver units for the remainder of this combat, which is nothing we plan to do anyway. But these are interesting tokens. But the idea was to maybe play the Ziggurat, so we would need 5 movement. That could be these 2 here. It's already 4, but we are missing 1 point then. So we're lacking cards and I do not want to use any of those. The determination is something that I might want to power with the blue crystal. Maybe I'm just tossing the improvisation since we do have a stout resolve. So that's 5 movement. Let's not overthink it. It's the last turn. It's just a score. But that's 5 movement, which brings us to the Ziggurat. 2 for plain, 3 for the desert at night. And we enter it, which does mean for floor 1 we are rolling 3 dice, which is white, red or black. Red is a fire attack of 2. White is a swift physical attack of 3. And black is a cumbersome, brutal physical attack of 4. Which does mean if we are not blocking, we have an armor 4 by now, it's just a wound. So I'm just taking this. Then we are going to the second floor, which is 1 die less, which is gold or blue. Blue is an ice attack of 2, and gold is a psychic attack of 4. So you can block this with influence, and regular block will be inefficient. But again, we are not blocking this, we are just taking the wound. We are not spending any resources here. And I do want to see where this is going by just rolling 1 more die for the third floor, so you don't have any choice. And it does come up green, which would be the poisonous attack of 3. So that would be 2 wounds, and with restoration, if we heal after combat, we will be able to get rid of all these. But we actually do want a wound for this, but we would get in a battle probably. Yeah, but I do not want to spend any cards, and I think these are not helpful for the traps, which might be a reason. Well, this we probably do not want to do, because we do not have multiple sources of attack. Reducing the attack will reduce the amount of wounds, that's good, maybe. And this might even be able to kill the enemy. Maybe we should block this. Yeah, we are just planning the blue crystal for a block of 5 to block this trap, so we are not getting more. And then we are entering and fighting a possessed brown enemy. I'm probably regretting that I'm just tossed determination. The brown enemy is a shadow, and a possession means it has an increased attack by 1 and a psychic attack of 3. That's interesting. I think these tokens are 1 fame at the end of the game if you're not using them, but it's a bad reason to hold them. So this Mask of Fear here we can use to reduce 1 enemy attack by 2, and we could not use silver units then, but this reduces the 5 cold fire attack to 3, which means it's just 1 wound now. And at the point we can already kill it, because with a green source die stout resolve with the wound we are getting is already 5. Since we did get a wound, that's another 2. And we do have the sharpshooting, that's another 1, so that's 8, which means it's dead. Which leaves the psychic attack, and we would have 2 influence, unfortunately because it's night, not day. So we do need 2 more block, which we do not have. So we are taking a wound for this, which also means that we are doing 2 more damage. So this is already 4, that's 9, that's 10. I think it's more than enough, but we do need this token. This is where tossing the determination might be a mistake, or might have been if we did not have this token, because we can only come up with 5 here if we do not have any other cards. So that's 6, and for the 8 we needed 2 from determination. But with this it's not a problem. I think at that point we could have even gotten 1 more wound to get 6 attack from this. So it's almost killing this token without even, well, literally anything. The stout resolve even without a wound would have killed it. So yeah, but I think that's it. Reducing this attack to 3, this is 3, that's 2 wounds. Stout resolve means, we can't use this with stout resolve of course. That's still 5, but this is another 4, that's 9, 10, so it's more than enough. There's no armor increase here, but a fame is increased to 5, so we had 87. We do get another faction token as a reward. These tokens are then used, and after the battle we will use a crystal here to cast restoration. We are not in the forest of course, but this will heal 3 of the wounds. We didn't have that many cards left for the Ziggurat, but I'm happy with this, so that's that. That would be re-rolled. We have 2 wounds in the deck now. We do get this, which is another of these tokens. So these are just 2 fame before we forget this at the end of the game. And for the third floor we will get an artifact, which is either the Tome of All Spells or the Druidic Staff. And we won't see it of course, but since I just taken wounds, maybe something that can heal is quite flexible is the way to go. But that was the scenario against the Horsemen. And I have to say, I really like that. The map is a bit big, as you can see. It's already overlapping and taking half of the screen. So maybe there's an option to not lay it out right away once you get some experience with the shape of the map. Stick to the center maybe, and then once you get to the edges, then you add stuff. And you can mark where the cities are roughly just by putting this, like here. If this tile would not be here, you just mark it at in this direction, you will have a city tile. I think that might be fine because most of the things you will not see in solo. But this is something I like. It's a circular map where you start in the center, so you're not having the sense of needing to progress, this urgency. and thinking about countryside tiles and core tiles in a V-shaped map and stuff like this. And you can really circle around if you like. I circle around like this and got deep with this one city, and I was really lucky that I got an artifact in the maze, an artifact in the altar, an artifact in the city. This was quite important, but it also put me so off position that the horsemen then gathered and are finally fortified. And that's the other point about the scenario that I really like, is that you have these 4 targets that you can try and intercept individually, but in the first round they will be so spread out that it's almost impossible to even reach one. If you really push it, maybe you can reach it, but you do have to snowball and level. So if you are leveling and killing to try a horseman, it might be asking for too much. In my case, I was exploring here and then diverting from this because it was day and it was a desert tile. So maybe that detour was what took me too long, because then I was in the end at the tower here and then the first horseman was already entering the tile, so that was quite nice. And the oasis was quite nice. But the point is that you can try to finish the first horseman, maybe the first round, but most likely the beginning of the second. And then you are really incentivized to take out another horseman in the 3rd day, for example, or even at the end of the 2nd round if you're really fast, to only have 2 then in the final battle, where it becomes almost like a regular assault with a larger army. But then again, the regular difficulty level for this scenario in solo would be 4 horsemen without horses on level 2, and I think that's far too easy, at least for me. I would not like just killing those 4, because at that point these are just regular tokens, and just 4 without arcane immunity. So even if you crank them up all to level 6, they have like 11 armor. Maybe let's flip them back that we can see this again. Yeah, this one here has 9 armor, which is physical resistant, but the other ones have 11, which is 42 in total, which is roughly the amount of armor that an avatar has, or all the heads of the dragon, for example, has. So that's a common number if you crank it up to the maximum level. But the difference here is it's just one enemy, as is the dragon. So in a scenario where this is the only target, it's not actually that high. If you are playing Life and Death, you have to defeat 2 avatars. But then again, in the full scenario here, which we haven't played yet, of course, you have to defeat all of these and the dragon, so it kind of pans out again. But the point here is really that you can fight them individually, and that makes all the difference in the world. If you can fight all the tokens of a level 11 city one by one, then that's of course much easier than fighting 5 at the same time, or even going Megapolis. Yeah, but the point is, non-arcane immune enemies that you can kill at range are of course much easier. Even if you crank them up to a high level, they will just be in the ballpark of dragons or white tokens, maybe a little bit better at level 6, but nothing individually that's hard to kill. So I do like this variant with the horses, and I played that in my first time playing the scenario right away, because I think it's fitting and it makes much more sense, because then you are doubling the amount of tokens. It's not that they are extremely complicated, the brown enemies, but I think it fits thematically and it makes it much more interesting, at least for me. It means that you are facing, like me, 6 tokens in the final battle if you can only kill 1 horseman. I think it panned out that I learned a lot of spells, got a lot of artifacts to then make a final round with sparring power. But if the dummy would have taken sparring power and so on, it would have turned out quite differently. So this was already like risky. I was really not sure that I could make that, especially with the fortification. That's also an interesting point, that the scenario like gives you this opportunity if you are good in positioning and movement and can ramp up quickly enough that you can catch them just with range attack and make it much easier on yourself. Or if not, or if you go for a different strategy, you are just collecting them in this final assault where they are actually fortified. And if I'm not playing this wrong, you actually have to initiate the battle with movement 5, and you have to move into the space to initiate the assault, like regularly with assaults. With the horsemen, you can actually move to the space and attack them in the later turn. They are not moving within the round. So in this sense, it's not a dynamic scenario where you have opponents roaming the map or destroying stuff. This will only happen in the combined scenario with the dragon, where the horsemen are actually roaming the land and destroying stuff. We'll see how this pans out. But I think this is really interesting because of this interesting map setup, and that you have these cities as an option. And you've seen I've really milked this city here to replace my peasant army. That was actually funny that I only recruited peasants and then fed them to a dragon and then just recruited the whole row. And also got an artifact. You do not have shields, you do not have a supply bonus because you do not have shields on the map. Of course, you do not have influence bonus. So it's really, just in quotes, a nice place to interact with, where you can learn spells or get artifacts, advanced actions, or recruit units. These are the 4 city types, and also allow you to get core units, which in this scenario is really easy to get early, which I did not do, again, because of pacing, and it was just not in the cards, literally, to also reveal a core tile. But then again, if you're revealing units you can only recruit in the city, and in solo you have only 3 slots, 2 of them are elite, so if 2 of them are only city units and the last one is another peasant, then what's the point? Because it would force you to visit the city. So I'm not sure or not convinced that always going for early core units is the play here, and it turned out quite nicely. But it's also a thing with the solo rules where you do not have an active dummy, as discussed recently in the forums. What's the point of the active dummy? Well, for me, it's also one of the biggest points is that you have a larger unit offer and a larger source with 4 dice and 4 units, and it makes a difference. Of course, he's also contesting the source, that also makes a difference. But with 1 more die, that sometimes I like that more than having 3 on my own, because if they deplete quickly, then you are also screwed. And you also start a scenario with a mana source and a healing source right beside rampaging enemies and a village, and that's insane. It's a very interesting start, because also what's notable here with the scenario is that it's 4 rounds, but it's not Blizzard rules. It's not giving you more reputation to start with, more fame to start with, no fame bonus with every level up. It does also not give you the extra dice and unit offer, which Blizzard rules do, but it kickstarts you on a glade with 1 rampaging enemy right beside you that you can just like take a hit in the face, heal right away, use an extra mana to power an extra card. So it's really kickstarting you. You do not even have to move to start leveling. I leveled on the spot, and you do have a village where usually you can hire something or you can start plundering. So it's cutting your playtime by 2 rounds without giving you Blizzard rules, but it then gives you this kickstarting ability, and it gives you the ability to die for core tiles and cities. And I think that's a very interesting dynamic that I haven't seen before from the scenarios. So it might be a sweet spot of a shorter Mage Knight experience with still the full scale. And that's a very interesting value proposition in my book. And the Horsemen, I think some people might not like that they are not arcane immune. They might be too whimsical. There were critiques in the forum that everything besides the city assaults is much easier anyway because range damage works. While this is a fair point, I always thought it quite obvious that Volker, for example, just compensates this with a much larger army. If you really think that's much easier to play against Volker, then please crank up the difficulty, and suddenly having range damage work is nice, but it's really not that much of a advantage, just a different game, because with the city assaults you always have to almost, if you go for higher levels, go for something like Demolish or Earthquake or Mass Expose or Alter Mages or something like this. So always almost have to go for some way to remove fortification, and there are not that many in the game. You can also always try to go for siege damage, but it always depends on the units and the spells you find and the advanced actions, so it's no way a guarantee. So I really liked with Lost Legion that there were scenarios where you're not forced into this siege damage shoehorn and instead have to deal with larger armies, where suddenly the scaling aspect comes much more into play. So counter-attack is suddenly nice, Flame Wave is suddenly nice, so all that stuff. So I do really like this. I don't think it's per se easy or something like this. It all depends on the difficulty. If it's too easy, just ramp up the number of tokens. And obviously a level 11 city has 5 tokens only, and Volker starts with an army that's much larger, especially if you compare to something like level 11 cities. So a comparable difficulty level with Volker will have a much larger army. And I think with the Dragon and the Horsemen, it might be exactly the problem that they, as I see it currently, they do not have an entourage like the avatars or Volker. And by themselves, they might be a little bit too easy. But again, in this scenario, it's, for me at least, it's already fixed just by giving them horses. You could also say that the horses only reveal when you approach them, and the first 2 have a dungeon enemy, the other 2 are actually riding a dragon. So I think it's very, very easy to ramp up the difficulty. And if you go for higher level horsemen, I went for 3 because I already doubled the number of tokens with the horses, but there's still the level 6. It's just 1 point per level roughly on armor and attack, but having a 9 fire brutal attack with 9 physical armor, a 7 ice attack that's paralyzing with an 11 cold fire resistant armor and so on, this is already much tougher, especially if you are not fighting them individually, like at least with a horse or in the final assault. So I did not feel like this was too easy. I think it was quite okay, and without getting this lucky break here with a lot of artifacts and a lot of spells in the beginning, which then I could all use with sparring power, I think it would not have worked out. So yeah, my final thoughts on this scenario is really that is this really nicely set up. I do like that. I see me playing this. It's a 4-round full scenario, not Blizz rules, with a kickstart, and I think that's a nice twist with access to cities and core units. And you can always just circle around because the enemies will come to you anyway. So it inverts a lot of the usual tropes I just like it. Let me know what you think about this scenario. But I, for one, I can really truly say that I enjoyed this. Alright, but that's that then for my thoughts on the scenario. Let's quickly count score. So this is my starting deck and the rage that we got rid of with the Book of Wisdom, which does mean we are ending up with 4 spells, 3 artifacts. We broke 1, 5 advanced actions and 2 wounds. As for the scenario rules, you get 4 fame per horseman, so that's 16. And 15 if you defeated all of them, so that's 31 in total. We had 89, so that's 120, or once across the whole board. And then the usual 30 points per unplayed round, 1 point per card in the dummy player's deck, and 5 if the end of round was not announced, but we get none of this. Which means we are going through the regular achievement bonuses, and that's 5 for the advanced actions and 8 for the spells, so that's 13. 6 for the artifacts, 1 pair of crystals, that's 7. Our army is level 4, 8, 11. As for the Conqueror, we did conquer a mage tower and a keep. We did not visit the monastery later and did not burn it down, but I think that's fair game because we did use our reputation. But I think that's just 4 points. As for the Adventurer, we did play this altar and this mace. And finally the Ziggurat here, so let's give us 6 points. And we are losing 4 for the wounds. But that's pretty much it, so we are landing at 157 points in a 4-round scenario with some kickstarting. No idea if this is good or not, but that's the final score then. Alright, but that's it. I do think the Horsemen are just a new category of tokens. You have to see it like this. It's just like dragons or city enemies. It's just a high-level kind of new token, which goes through all the usual elements and combinations of special powers, paralyzed, brutal, poison, swift, and so on. So it's just a very systematic new token category with the added bonus that you can scale them from level 1 to 6. And they give you these faction tokens. And these are all battle-focused tokens. So it's the Cloak of the Martyr that allows you to assign damage to a unit twice in a combat, but then kill it. The Blood Fury Dagger, which, as you have seen, makes you retaliate if you are getting wounds. The Boots of Charging, which we had in the last game, but on this one, this actually turned out quite nice, that you can charge a rampaging enemy, so a Draconum or an Orc with movement 2, and then in the attack phase, but not the range and siege phase, you get to attack against that. The Ring of Shadows that makes you ignore all wounds and effects of this attack of a token, but for the rest of the combat, you are not getting any fame. So it's quite a harsh penalty, but it can be really nice if you are getting attacked by a high-level paralyzing enemy, for example. The Mask of Fear that reduces the attack of an enemy, but you can't use silver units anymore. And the Blade of Dominance, which allows you to cancel an attack of an enemy by playing attack, not block, so that might be handy. But it's all combat focused, which I think is thematically an interesting way to introduce new content. So that you have this systematic for tokens that do have rules to roam the land and destroy stuff, with the thematic bonus of being the Horsemen of the Apocalypse. And if you defeat them, you actually also get some combat powers for later. Alright, but that's the second video of the Apocalypse Dragon, this time featuring a new scenario against the Horsemen with the 4 Horsemen, so that's the new content, and especially these faction tokens. We have seen 2 of them in the last game already due to these possessed enemies that also give faction tokens as a reward. We have played 1 Ziggurat in the end, just so that you see another one. I did like it a lot, let me know what you think about it. But that's it for today, so see you in the next game.